Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Mon. The U.S. is launching new strikes on Iran as President Trump delivers a fresh warning to Iran. What's the latest with the now reinstated naval blockade, and how is the president weighing in on ICE policies? President Trump's pick to lead the Justice Department is facing questioning today as Todd Blanche begins his confirmation hearing for Attorney General. The president's pick for Director of Intelligence is also appearing before the Senate. Jay Clayton shares his previous national security experience and takes questions on how he views U.S. adversaries. President Trump is throwing his support behind a familiar name in Minnesota's governor's race, why he's endorsing MyPillow founder Mike Lindell, and how the race is shaping up. The FDA is investigating a growing multi-state outbreak that's sickened more than 1,600 people, while officials are now focusing on produce and what symptoms doctors are being told to watch for. Ukraine and the European Union are deepening their defense partnership. The new agreement aims to ramp up weapons production, including drones and air defense systems, as the war with Russia continues.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. President Trump's nominee for Director of National Intelligence is appearing before the Senate. Here's Jay Clayton speaking to the Senate Intelligence Committee during his confirmation hearing.
I intend to approach the D&I role in the same way I have approached these roles. Mission-focused and team-oriented, taking on the challenges and seizing the opportunities. The mission of the Director of National Intelligence is clear: to ensure that the policymakers and institutions that the intelligence community serves, especially the President, our military leaders, and Congress, receive the best possible intelligence in a timely, objective, and independent manner. That mission and obligation will be front of mind every day.
Clayton has served as U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York and chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission. He says that as U.S. Attorney, he gained significant national security experience, including in matters involving foreign terrorist organizations, counter-espionage, money laundering, and bribery. Clayton says that as SEC chair, he directly confronted issues with national security implications. They involve cybersecurity and combating Chinese exploitation of U.S. markets. Senator Tom Cotton asking the nominee how he views China and Russia.
Isn't that particularly true as we think about our struggle for mastery with China and also checking Russian aggression around the world, that economic matters are vitally important when we're facing traditional nation-state actors like Russia and China?
Senator Cotton, Chair Cotton, I could not agree more that our adversaries not only look at kinetic and other what I would call traditional ways to harm Americans, they look at economic ways to harm Americans.
Clayton says if he gets confirmed, he will work to strengthen the coordination and communication between the intelligence community and the people they serve. He says he will focus on enhancing the trust of the American people in the intelligence community and the federal government generally. President Trump directing more strikes on Iran as the U.S. also ramps up economic pressure for Iran to make a deal. It comes, though, as the president criticizes Iranian leadership of lying repeatedly and breaking promises. Joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent, Iris Tao. Iris, good afternoon. What is the latest?
Good afternoon to you as well, Don. So President Trump is now saying that the U.S. will continue to strike Iran until he says stop. That, he says, is to degrade Iran far enough and deep enough. Central Command announcing a fresh wave of strikes Wednesday morning, targeting Iran military targets with the focus of degrading Iran's military capabilities along the Strait of Hormuz, and in particular, their ability to attack commercial ships in the key waterway. Now, Central Command releasing footage showing those attacks, including, for example, precision strikes on Iranian missile storage. That, of course, as part of the mission to keep the Strait of Hormuz open, as the U.S. says is now reinstating a naval blockade against Iranian ports. And President Trump now calling Iranian leaders evil, adding that there are some bad ones in the current leadership that are hindering progress of the deal. He's also saying that they're repeatedly breaking their promises and are just not trustworthy, making him not willing anymore to try to negotiate a deal with them. That comes as it also delivers a fresh warning to Iran. Watch.
You better make a deal. You're not going to have anybody left. We're being very careful with the civilian population, as you know, but I said, you better make a deal. You're not going to have anything left.
And you think they will?
They should. I don't know if they will or not.
And President Trump is now saying that he's going to take investments from Gulf neighbors in the region instead of charging a 20% fee on cargo moving through the Strait of Hormuz. It also comes as a naval blockade by U.S. forces now fully back in effect. Central Command announcing this morning that they have now redirected 2 commercial ships as it restarts naval blockade as they were trying to basically evade the new blockade. Now, more than 20 naval warships and as well as hundreds of military aircraft are in the region operating across the whole Middle East region, according to Central Commands, as they're now saying that they will be vigilant and remaining in full force to keep the naval blockade in effect. Back to you.
And Iris, as well, the president this morning also weighing in on ICE policies. Tell us more about this.
Sure. So shifting gears to domestic news here, a day after ICE saying that they're going to put a pause on vehicle stops, President Trump is now weighing in, instructing the agency to reverse course as he calls vehicle stops one of ICE's most important and effective crime-fighting tools. On True Social, the president posting, quote, Democrats will like to see this done, but it won't happen on my watch. ICE, be judicious, fair, and smart, and go back and do your very important job. He also touts the crime numbers as crime rates are falling down. It comes after 2 individuals were fatally shot during ICE vehicle stops in Maine and Texas in recent days. But Border Czar Tom Homan is stressing that investigations are still ongoing. He also adds that there are scenarios that prove the necessity of ICE vehicle stops. Here's what he told reporters at the White House today. Watch.
Well, there's going to be situations where they need to do a vehicle stop, especially if it's a criminal alien. And before you enter a city, downtown city, you want to take them down in a desolate area where public is safer. There are so many different extenuating circumstances that these officers have to consider.
And this afternoon, the president is traveling to Pennsylvania to participate at the Defense and Innovation Summit. The White House says that summit will bring billions of dollars of new investments and thousands of new jobs for people in Pennsylvania. Back to you.
All right, Iris, thank you for that. And now for the latest on the Iran situation, joining us now to discuss is Lieutenant Colonel Darren Gobb, NTD senior geopolitical analyst, former Black Hawk helicopter pilot, and battalion commander in the U.S. Army. Colonel, thank you for being on the show today. So after Operation Epic Fury, the United States right now continuing heavy attacks on Iran, and Iran has been attacking ships in the Strait of Hormuz and attacking allies. After Epic Fury, what is Iran's missile capability right now?
Yeah, Don, good to see you again. Their missile capability, whether it be small or large, does still exist in some capacity. You're not going to have a nation that large and with that much rough terrain, the mountainous terrain that surrounds it, and not be able to prepare for a conflict like this. So they've been severely degraded, yes, in ballistic missiles and drones launch facilities and things like that. But they maintain enough that they can continue at the pace they're going for a while. And unless, of course, we continue to strike them repeatedly each night, as has been happening. The challenge, of course, for us is the fact that Iran only has to launch, say, like one missile or one drone against a commercial ship in the Strait in order for them to achieve what they're looking for, which is essentially a headline and an elevated risk perspective for those who are trying to transit the Strait itself. And so you're not going to most likely see a barrage of large numbers of things like we saw at the height of our bombing campaign in the country. But they can ultimately get to what they're trying to get to which is that message of is maintaining the risk levels in the strait, so they can keep impacting the global energy market, global economy as a result, and anything else that might occur from there as well that they consider to be even a minor victory at this point.
But here's the thing, Colonel. If they're not doing a barrage, if they're doing one drone, one missile, or a couple at a time, isn't that easier to defend against as well?
Yes, it is easier to defend against if you are the kind of a naval vessel that is able to defend itself. But what they're looking to target is more of an oil container ship or something along those lines, cargo ships, things that don't have the capacity necessary to shoot down even one missile that's launched from shore out to their ship. Now, if U.S. naval vessels are in the region and able to generally defend an area, they can be pretty successful against those for sure. Yes. If Iran changes their tactics to where they get something more like a drone swarm scenario, that's when things would get more challenging.
Okay, so let's say if Iran wants to do this drone barrage or missile barrage scenario, would they be able to quickly replenish their supply if they engage in this strategy?
With the larger ballistic missile systems and things like that, no. And that's because not only does the missile get destroyed in the process, but it also lets us know where the launching facilities are, and we typically would go after those and take that one off the battlefield as well. Drones are easier. They can be replenished a little bit easier depending on the size and type you're using. Those can come overland from some of the rail facilities they've been using with China and anything else where they've potentially been smuggling them across border or even maybe into port areas that haven't been monitored as well. And so that's certainly capable of happening. But bottom line, in the end, though, their ability to get replenished has been severely degraded, and it will continue to get degraded if we continue to bomb them as we have been basically each night for a period of time.
Okay, if Iran wants to threaten the Strait of Hormuz long term, do they have the missile capability to do that? Are we talking about months? Are we talking about years?
I would talk months, and that's because regardless, they're still going to run out of things eventually. And oh, by the way, at the same time, their economy is getting in a bit of a stranglehold as well, and not able to build the things they've needed to build or pay the people they need to pay in order to keep going. But they're hoping, and this is me reading into their tactics and knowing their playbook right now, they're hoping to be able to do months because they want to be able to drag this out to America's midterm elections at the very least and influence those, as well as give them the best chance of being able to say that they've survived the onslaught of America and are still in existence. And that's always been part of their playbook, too. They don't want to necessarily win militarily. They know they can't. But they want to win in the court of public opinion and win by just having their regime survive. And that's part of their ultimate goal.
And Colonel, I saw reports that maybe Iran is thinking of threatening additional energy export corridors. Do you think Iran has the ability to do that in addition to the Strait of Hormuz and other places?
Well, to a point, it wouldn't be a large-scale threat. It would be similar to what you see them limited to what they're able to do in the strait right now, and that would be activating the Houthis that work in the Suez Canal region. They could actually activate terror cells in other locations that might try to influence the actual Suez Canal itself, which I don't think Egypt would put up with, but Iran could certainly try it. That's kind of how I would see it right now. But in the end, much of what Iran threatens, as far as the scale is concerned, is not something they're really truly able to achieve.
So President Trump a couple of days ago said maybe the U.S. should be the guardian of the Strait of Hormuz. Does the U.S. have the ability to do that, whatever being the guardian of the strait means?
Yeah, that's the hard part, is exactly what does that mean? Do we have the ability? Probably, but it would depend on reducing the effectiveness of Iran along that shoreline at depth to be able to say we can do that. And then it would also take the agreement of some of the Gulf Cooperation Council nations, which some of those certainly might. But I think that is one that would need to be extremely well defined in scope to make everybody understand what it means. Because I don't think the American people, and rightfully so, would be big fans of us permanently stationing something that would make us be the overseers of the strait. I think the better plan has been going on for a while, which is nations that are building ways to bypass the strait to move their energy supplies anyways.
What would the American people not be in favor of for long-term positioning in the Strait of the U.S. Navy? If U.S. got paid for it, would it make it better?
It's possible, but I think Americans in general, and again, rightfully so, are tired of being the world police in areas where we may have a strategic interest now, but we're actually impacting the world's energy supply and prices without much of the world's help to do so. And so what they would see is the continued use of American military forces as sort of a global police, and we're getting rightfully tired of that as well. So it would depend on what being the guardian of the strait would look like, whether that's an actual positioning of forces or whether it's just a requirement to respond if threatened. That would be a completely different thing.
So Trump also said, told Fox News that this is a quote: "We have other people that will do the ground campaign for us." So, if a ground campaign hypothetically is on the table, who do you think President Trump is referring to if we're talking about boots on the ground?
Yeah, that's a pretty open-ended statement for sure. But when you look inside Iran itself, one always points to the Kurds and whether or not they're willing to follow through and do something like that. There's also a variety of populations around, like the Baluchistan region, which is the southeast corner area by Pakistan. I don't know what their capabilities are now. Been out for a little bit, but I suspect that population would be very much in favor. And there are a number of Gulf Cooperation Council nations and other nations in the area that are tired of getting bullied by Iran, who may be willing to take part. So it doesn't mean they're coming in large scale if they go in at all, if anything happens ground force wise anywhere. But it could mean that they want to be a participant in some capacity.
Okay, Colonel, maybe just one more thing here. President Trump said in that same interview, potentially next week, the U.S. could target power plants within Iran. What would be the effect of that on the Iranian regime?
Well, if it's tailored specifically to power plants that feed into the defense manufacturing complex, that would be one key effect. I mean, you're basically shutting down manufacturing plants of those that still exist and build the missiles and drones and various things like that. So we got to be careful not to destroy things that actually only harm the Iranian population. And that's what they have to be careful of in the targeting cycle. The same thing with infrastructure in general. Bridges, when he talks about bridges, it's like, the bridge that goes, a bridge that would lead from Iran into China, where China brings in things by rail. Some of it would be defense type of stuff or dual use. Or eliminating a bridge like that would certainly be a legitimate military target and have good effect. Yeah, and having been through targeting cycles, I'll tell you that they are exhaustive in going through things and making sure what is a legitimate target and whether or not it actually achieves something, an effect that is positive towards ending a conflict, rather than making things worse on the people that we're actually trying to help free.
Okay, Colonel, enjoy hearing your perspective. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Don.
An Iranian-born man has been convicted of illegally exporting sensitive U.S.-made electronic components to Iran in violation of sanctions. Prosecutors say Mahdi Mohammad Sadeghi worked with an alleged accomplice to transfer electronics through a Swiss front company before they were shipped to an Iranian company. He is a dual U.S.-Iranian citizen. The Justice Department says the Iranian company supplied navigation systems used in drones and other weapon systems, including in a drone recovered after a 2024 attack in Jordan that killed 3 U.S. service members and wounded more than 40 others. Court documents say the exported items are subject to strict U.S. export controls. The FBI says the case should serve as a warning to companies violating export laws and illegally transferring American technology to U.S. adversary. Sadeghi faces up to 20 years in prison on each count. Staying in the Middle East, Israel and Lebanon are taking steps to implement a withdrawal agreement. This comes after 2 days of U.S.-mediated talks in Rome. The U.S. State Department announces that Israeli forces should withdraw from pilot zones in southern Lebanon and turn over control to the Lebanese army. Lebanon would clear the areas of any Hezbollah presence. The U.S. says the two sides agreed on the surface and the structure and guidelines for the pilot zone process. They will be finalized and implemented in the coming days. It's unclear where exactly the pilot zones would be. Israel and Lebanon announced the framework withdrawal agreement on June 26th, but implementation on the ground had stalled ahead of this week's talks. Hezbollah and Iran has sought to link the end of the war in Lebanon to the outcome of the broader U.S.-Iran talks. The Lebanese government, meanwhile, aimed to negotiate a ceasefire directly with Israel. President Trump's pick to lead the Justice Department defends key administration policies under sharp questioning from senators. We have more about this after the break.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I felt this slight pressure in my chest, just slight. I thought, oh, it's nothing, it'll go away. I didn't get it. I did not get it. A few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. It felt like an elephant pressing on my chest. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I was rushed into surgery where I received 2 stents in my arteries. Stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. I can enjoy life with my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did.
Please call or go online to helpheart.org. Become a monthly donor, and for a limited time only, your first month's gift will be matched.
Thank you.
That first time seeing my son, I feel like my life did a 180. I was already trying to change my perspective of life and really just be a father figure that I never had. Being present is the most important part. I'm still growing every day. Becoming a better version of myself. To be the better mirror for my son. I mean, he's just growing. He's becoming his own person. Man, at first I saw him dance, bro, he brings the vibes, you know what I'm saying? He brings the party no matter what. He really a definition of like why he loves somebody. And I love him to the death of me.
On Capitol Hill this morning, a key confirmation hearing. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche answered questions from senators who will have to vote on whether to confirm him as the Justice Department's new leader. NTD's Melina Weisskopf is on Capitol Hill with updates.
Todd Blanche has served as the acting attorney general since April, when the president previously fired the attorney general Pam Bondi at the time. And he served also in the capacity of President Trump's personal lawyer back in 2023 and 2024. Senator Chuck Grassley, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, kicked off today's confirmation hearing talking about the fact that he thinks credit should be given where credit is due, talking about the work that Blanche has done so far in his department to tackle fraud within the federal government, narco-terrorism, DEI, and weaponization under the Biden administration. Steph, here's Grassley.
We've established the National Fraud Enforcement Division to address more than $5 billion in fraud against American taxpayers. They've reduced the immigration case log by more than 468,000. They've challenged and eliminated racist and unlawful discrimination in government and the private sector. They're exposing and readdressing the Biden-era weaponization of the department against political opponents.
Other senators doubling down once again on the proposed $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund. Remember, this was a fund proposed by the Trump administration that would have compensated Americans who were deemed to have been unlawfully targeted or faced lawfare by the government. Blanche, when pressed again about why he couldn't put his commitment to keeping that fund dead in writing, he told senators this.
You've repeatedly refused to put that commitment in writing or to submit a declaration to the court.
There's long-standing precedent that judges cannot ask cabinet secretaries or people like me to put in declarations. It has nothing to do with whether the fund is alive. I'm under oath today, and I've said it's dead repeatedly.
Now, considering the slim majority that Republicans have right now, it's likely that the confirmation vote for Blanche will come down to the wire.
He can't lose any Republican votes, but I assume the Republicans will vote for him, so.
Are you a yes?
Oh, it's not over yet.
Another big focus of today's hearing, of course, was the Epstein files. Remember, a judge just ruled last month that the FBI is required to reveal previously blocked out passages from the Epstein files. Blanche admitted to senators today that there was a mistake in the redaction process, but he has taken action to correct those mistakes. Listen.
Some allegations include problematic redactions, insufficient effort to follow investigative leads.
When President Trump signed the Epstein Transparency Act, the Department of Justice undertook a Herculean task to review millions and millions of potentially responsive files. They took pains to apply appropriate redactions. There were mistakes that were made, and so approximately 1% of the redactions had to be fixed. Remember, for 4 years, there wasn't a peep about Jeffrey Epstein. The Biden administration did nothing to be transparent about the Epstein case.
Several of the survivors of Epstein's crimes were present in the committee room listening to this confirmation hearing today. Today was the first of a 2-day hearing with Blanche. Tomorrow he'll face questions from an outside panel of witnesses solely focused on his character. Back to you.
Todd Blanche's confirmation hearing is underway this week to become Attorney General. Joining us to discuss about this is Alan Mendenhall, former Assistant Attorney General for Alabama and Senior Advisor at the Heritage Foundation. So, Alan, good afternoon to you. You know, as you heard, Blanche will need the support of all GOP lawmakers on the Senate Judiciary Committee to advance. And lawmakers today asked him tough questions. How do you think he handled himself?
Well, I think he handled himself fairly well. What I saw was senators giving mini speeches and Blanche not having a lot of time to even respond. And so a lot of the involved foregone conclusions. But look, the reason why this is such a close vote right now is because of Lindsey Graham's passing. It passed on July 12th, and we're sitting here, which means the committee now has 11 Republicans and 10 Democrats. 2 of those Republicans are about to leave. Boston, and Tom Tillis announced that he's not seeking re-election. So we've got a very tight here. Graham's replacement to the committee has not been named. So Blanche needs a majority vote to advance. If all Republicans vote yes, he advances. But if one Republican, just one, votes no, then the committee would tie 10 to 10 and he'd fail to reach a majority. But that doesn't automatically mean that his nomination couldn't override John Thune, as Senate Majority Leader, could move the nomination forward by bypassing the Judiciary Committee. He could bring Blanche directly to the Senate floor through a motion to discharge. So if he did not make it out of the Senate committee, I suspect you would see Thune pull this motion to discharge card out of his back pocket.
So how are you feeling right now? Are you feeling optimistic that in the end he's going to become the new AG? What is your optimism level?
Yeah, I think in the end that he will become AG, and I think it will be a straight partisan vote, and I think that will be a good thing. The Democrats keep accusing him of politicizing the Department of Justice, but it's really shocking to hear that type of double speak, that double standard, because if you look at the DOJ under Biden, the DOJ was not just prosecuting federal Trump and federal cases involving either alleged election interference or classified documents, but also doing the FBI searches of the Mar-a-Lago residence. And then there were the Hunter Biden investigations that gave Hunter Biden preferential treatment. And there were stepped up IRS and tax enforcement against conservatives. And this goes back to the Obama era, where the IRS targeted Tea Party groups, and you had the Fast and Furious gun operation, and you had Fox News reporters being surveilled by the federal government. So this allegation of weaponizing the DOJ is really rings hollow to me. And then the other thing that makes me optimistic is Tom Tillis told Blanche that you did a good job today, which to me was a signal to the Republican base that you have my vote.
All right, that is good to hear. Can I get a reaction from you, from Senator Dick Durbin, and what he said, saying that Blanche acted more like President Trump's personal attorney than an independent Justice Department leader? What is your reaction to this?
You cut out just a little than something Dick Durbin had said.
Right. Oh, okay. Let me just repeat it. The internet connection is a little in and out right now, so let me just repeat what I said.
Okay.
So I wanted to get your reaction because Senator Dick Durbin, during the hearing, he claimed Blanche was acting more like Trump's personal attorney rather than an independent Justice Department leader. Can I get your reaction to this?
Well, he did. He had the one little slip up in his answer where he said that I was, the Trump's attorney. But look, that's my response to that is, this is somebody who has seen firsthand what the DOJ is capable of doing when it is weaponized, and he's not going to let that happen. And so I think that he is a strong pick. He's already proven that he is capable of managing this massive piece of the federal government. He is uniquely qualified to reform the DOJ because he sees what happens when the DOJ is abusive. And I think that the SPLC indictment going after the SPLC is evidence that he's willing to show no organization is willing to be above the law. No organization is above the law, and he's willing to go after anybody. And so I think this is an obvious choice, a good choice, and that he'll get through.
And earlier you talked about the weaponization under the Biden administration. Can you talk to us a bit more about transparency? Because that was a topic as well in today's hearing. So how transparent has this DOJ been compared to under the Biden administration? And how transparent do you think it's going to be with Blanche as well?
Yeah, I think transparency in government is always good. It's a little bit different when you're dealing with law enforcement because law enforcement has to keep some things from being just revealed to the public. There's certain confidential information, but what we're not seeing is a DOJ that is treating Catholics as domestic extremists or going after school board members and election officials. And as Ted Cruz was up there saying, there were 12 Republican senators who were their cell phones were being surveilled by the DOJ. You had social media and government and communication, where you had the government pressuring platforms to suppress conservative viewpoints. You had investigations involving conservatives and intelligence assessments involving conservatives. You had the DOJ selectively pursuing Trump and conservatives. And so it was a highly politicized thing. You're not seeing any of that going on right now. The Democrats complain that organizations like the SPLC are getting targeted, but the Democrats themselves aren't being targeted in that way. So, it's been definitely a double standard. The Democrats are crying foul on things that they were doing.
Okay, just one last thing. With all the things you listed in the prior DOJ compared to the DOJ now, do you think there is more public trust in the DOJ now compared to before?
That's a good question. I think that probably there is, in light of the fact that you don't have, the DOJ targeting people like the example I mentioned earlier, conservative Catholics. Like it is not criminal to hold a conservative Catholic belief. And that is unreal that we'd have a DOJ that would be targeting people that identify like that, And so right now the DOJ is targeting people that are legitimately implicated in crimes, organizations like the Southern Party Law Center that have paid informants and extremist groups that are connected to neo-Nazis and Ku Klux Klan members and things like that. And there are legitimate concerns and legitimate linkages to criminal activity. And so I think that, if anything, we should have more public trust in the present DOJ than we did under the Biden administration's DOJ, for sure.
Okay, well, Alan, thank you for your time today. It's good to speak with you.
Thank you.
President Trump endorses MyPillow founder Mike Lindell for Minnesota governor, what the president said, and how the race is taking shape. More news after this break. Don't go away.
Where did the time go? Somehow I lost all those years. Where did the time go? I don't know how I got here. How did I get here? I can see now.
You've done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
My 15-year-old son, Ethan, and I had a fun and relaxing morning. We returned home, and Ethan walked to his best friend's house an hour later. I heard the ambulance scream by the street, carrying my beautiful boy. Ethan was shot in the head in his best friend's house with an unsecured gun. He had zero chance of survival. The father, the gun owner, he stored his 3 guns and bullets in a shoebox.
How do you feel?
That has to be the most horrific experience that a human could ever have.
David, would you give any advice?
First thing you do is not keep your ammunition with your weapons, and that your weapons need to be locked at all times.
There is a road laid out for me.
Boxes everywhere. And this is gonna be Addie's room.
I am blind,
You're really gonna like it.
I hope so. Yeah.
I know this road is there for me. There is a long way.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
Waist down by the river. I am blind, but
I got this.
Okay.
If I'm really free, take me down to the river and wash me.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune and other Senate Republican leaders just held their weekly press conference. Let's take a look.
Act, something that Congress has done every year now for the last 65 years. And yesterday, we had what was simply a motion to proceed to get on the bill. Actually, it was a cloture motion to proceed to get on the bill. And the Democrats blocked it, every single one. And that, my friends, I believe is really unfortunate. This is an issue that ought to be bipartisan. It's about the national security interest of this country. And the Democrats seem to be dug in and willing to play politics with America's vital national security interests. This is not about funding for Iran. This is something we do on an annual basis, and we have for the last 65 years in a row. So I am hopeful that at some point the Democrats will come to their senses and realize that national security ought to be a priority for them. It certainly is for us, and we will give them more opportunities in which to change that vote and to express their support for even moving forward and having a debate. And by the way, I would add that there were 38 Democrat amendments that were included in the National Defense Authorization Act that we tried to get up on the floor yesterday. So national security is important to this country. Border security is important to this country. The Democrats have a pattern going back now over a year of not wanting to pay air traffic controllers, not wanting to pay border security personnel, and in this particular case, holding hostage the pay increases for our men and women in uniform. That is really unfortunate and unprecedented, and I certainly hope that soon they'll come to their senses.
Tomorrow night, the president is expected to give a primetime address and talk about the elections. Would you encourage him to not say that the 2020 election was stolen?
I don't know what he's going to say. Only thing I can tell you is we are focused on the 2026 election. At least I am, and I think most of my colleagues are.
Leader Thune, are you convinced that Senators Warnock and Ossoff are duly chosen and sworn?
That election was a closed issue back in 2020. The election in 2026 gives us an opportunity to take a run at and to win one of those seats in Georgia. And we're going to do everything we can to do that. And so, as I said before, I'm focused on 2026.
Senator Thune, obviously there's been a lot of questions about Senator McConnell's health, him now being not here for more than a month and not being able to vote. Do you believe that there should be some action taken to deal with members that are out for an extended period of time? Do they need to be more transparent with their health? How should this impact the Senate going forward, particularly because he's been out for so long without a lot of clear questions as to when he might be back?
This isn't the first time that this has happened.
Isn't that a reason to do it, though?
Well, it's happened on both sides of the aisle. Look, Senator McConnell has reported about his health, and I'm hopeful that we're going to have him back here soon. But until that time, we'll defer to him and to his staff to give us updates on how he's doing. I don't know that there's any. I think in the past there have been numerous opportunities. I can think of two immediately on the Democrat side, and one on our side where you had members that were out for extended periods of time, and obviously.
And you were just watching Senate Majority John Thune and other lawmakers giving a press conference. Let's move on. President Trump endorsing MyPillow founder Mike Lindell for Minnesota governor. He's posting his endorsement on Truth Social. President Trump calling Lindell the Pillow Man, praising him as, quote, one of America's greatest and most hardworking patriots. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is not running for re-election amid allegations of widespread fraud in the state. He said the campaign would pull his focus away from confronting the problem. Federal investigations into the state's handling of federally supported child care programs are ongoing. Longtime Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar is the leading Democratic candidate for governor. There currently are 26 Republican governors and 24 Democratic governors across the country. 36 gubernatorial elections will take place in November. The Department of War will be conducting annual testosterone screenings for service members. War Secretary Pete Hegseth says this is an effort to ensure the troops' maximum physical and mental readiness.
We must constantly look for new ways to optimize your performance, your resilience, and your long-term health. And to meet that commitment today, I'm authorizing a new screening program for testosterone deficiency for our service members, ensuring you have the right testosterone levels to operate at your absolute best.
Testosterone deficiency can cause muscle loss, fatigue, weight gain, and other illnesses. Service members aged 30 and older will be tested for testosterone levels annually as part of their periodic health assessment. Those under 30 can also choose to give the test. If treatment is recommended, it's up to the service members to receive testosterone replacement therapy. Hegseth says the new screenings are not about artificial enhancement. They are about keeping U.S. service members on the leading edge of lethality and optimizing their natural capabilities. The War Secretary adds that America's most decisive tactical advantage will always be the individual warfighter. A federal judge has awarded over $300 million in damages to 3 Americans who were jailed and allegedly tortured in Venezuela. The judge saying a criminal enterprise controlled by former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was responsible. In 2023, Maduro's government freed Gerald Kennemore, Jason Saad, and Edgar Marval after months in prison. They were exchanged for Alex Saab, Venezuela's former Minister of Industry and National Production. Saab had been awaiting trial in the U.S. on money laundering charges before the prisoner swap. Last year, the 3 Americans sued several senior Venezuelan officials. The plaintiffs claimed they were subjected to physical and psychological torture, including electrocution, stress positions, and beatings. The judge issued a default judgment this week against Maduro, Saab, and other defendants in the lawsuit. And we're going to go back to Senator John Thune giving the press conference. Let's hear what he says.
As you know, is very different in the House than it is in the Senate. So we'll see what they're going to try and mark it up in the committee, and we'll see if they can report it, get it across the floor of the House, and what it all contains. The numbers that you were mentioned that have been put out there in terms of what the funding level would be for defense and other things are things that I'm sure our members are going to want to have a lot of input on. I mean, we just had a meeting, as you know, where these issues are starting to get talked about a lot more. And I think the defense number, the ag number, whether or not it's offset, what are the implications over here with respect to the Byrd rule and the restrictions that we have on how reconciliation is used? Do we have 50 votes for something? I mean, I think those are all valid questions, and those questions will be answered in due time. I've said all along, as you know, that it's an option, but it's not certainly the only option, and it all, in the end, comes down to whether you have the math, whether you can get 50 votes to pass it in the end, and whether you've got 50 votes to defeat any poison pill amendments that might be offered. And so those are all questions that will have to be answered in due time.
Senators Mike Lee and Rick Scott are both calling on the Senate to stay in session and bypass any recesses or weekends to get the Save America Act across the finish line. Is that something that you're open to and would support?
Well, if I thought there was a path to getting a positive result or a positive outcome, I'd be willing to do just about anything, because I think we are all here in favor of the Save America Act. The folks that have consistently block voted against it are all the Democrats in the United States Senate. And I think that's unlikely to change. And it's also very unlikely that the Senate Republicans are going to vote to get rid of the legislative filibuster. So we've had 5 votes on it. We have voted on the entire Save America Act. We have voted on photo ID as a separate issue. We have voted on photo ID and registration, or citizenship to register. We've had that amendment. We've had a vote on boys competing in girls sports. We've had 5 now votes on the Save America Act or individual components of it, and none of which got a single Democrat. To me, the issue here is the Democrats, and we ought to be going after them for opposing something that's popular across this country, not just with Republicans, but with Democrats as well.
Mr. Leader, follow to Chad's question. Without a guess, if you do believe the senators from Georgia are to that happened, and now the president, as of this right, has reversed it. Do you believe that those traffic stops should continue? Are Americans safe right now under ICE?
Well, I think they're safe if they're here legally. ICE has a job to do. ICE agents have. ICE agents have a job to do, and so obviously we've deferred to Secretary Mullen and to his team there about the best way to do that job. But we're very interested in ensuring that this country that we have safe and secure streets. As to your first question, I think that if you go back, states certify elections. And that's what every state does under our system, and the state certified those elections. So, like I said before, I'm not looking back into the past, I'm looking to the future. We have a Senate race in Georgia this year in 2026, and I'm hoping we're going to be able to pick up a seat there. Thank you all.
And you were just watching Senate Majority John Thune giving a press conference answering reporter questions, including one reporter asking John Thune about the Save America Act, and he responded that the Senate has voted on that. Lawmakers have voted on that 5 separate times, including individual components of the Save America Act, and every single time not a single Democrat has voted yes for it. So he says he's willing to do anything to get it passed, but he says we should be going after Democrats because they're the one who's opposing it. All right, when we come back from break, a DoorDash driver gets hit by a fleeing suspect and still finished the delivery, plus fireworks fired from a moving car and a pilot who writes, "I'm bored," across the sky. You don't want to miss that after this.
Appliances break down, home systems fail, which means I show up at every one store because I'm inevitable.
Unfortunately, something expensive is about to happen.
Is it the heat, plumbing, electrical, wiring, garage door, oven?
But we already have homeowners insurance. Actually, home insurance is for the unexpected disasters. A home warranty is for the everyday wear and tear that will cause your home systems and appliances to fail. So give the people at First American a call.
First American has had my back for years. It saved me hundreds. Just one call, and they send a pre-screened, qualified contractor.
Every home system and appliance fails. There's absolutely no avoiding it. But when the day comes, First American has you covered. Home breakdowns are inevitable, but the expense, that's optional.
Call First American for a free quote that could save you thousands on inevitable home breakdowns. Call 800-423-1231 or visit FAHW.com.
Today's seniors are enjoying life more than ever before, and part of that comes from the independence of driving.
However, car insurance for older drivers becomes more expensive the older we get.
Just because I'm a senior, and maybe you are too, do we really have to pay outrageously high insurance rates? Well, the answer is no, we don't.
When was the last time you checked to make sure you're paying the lowest available rate? Well, maybe it's time to give your car insurance a tune-up, just to make sure your rates are running properly.
You change your oil, you change your tires, well, maybe it's time to change your car's insurance company.
Are you paying too much for your auto insurance? If so, you're just throwing your money away.
So the only way to really know if you're paying too much is to call the number on your screen.
1-800-952-5196. 1-800-952-5196.
You'll speak with a licensed insurance agent. They may have an insurance plan that could lower your yearly premiums by hundreds of dollars.
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
Come on, call now.
You may be able to save a lot of money, maybe hundreds of dollars a year. Just call the number on your screen and speak with a licensed insurance agent.
Yes, it is possible for seniors to save on car insurance. You could lower your premiums by hundreds of dollars a year.
As a responsible driver, you always check your gauges, right? And you check for other cars and pedestrians. You check your oil and you check your mirrors.
Well, now is the time to check on your auto insurance rates. You need to make sure that you're not paying more than you need to. Call the number on your screen right now.
1-800-952-5196. 1-800-952-5196.
A DoorDash driver is hit by a car and she still delivers the food to the home. Here's what happened.
Watch a DoorDash driver in Texas get hit by a suspect fleeing from police and then get right up and finish her delivery. A Houston area resident's security cameras captured the moment the DoorDash driver pulled up to a curb as sirens could be heard wailing. Just as the driver exits her vehicle, a suspect leading a police pursuit slams into the parked car, colliding with the woman and knocking her over. The suspect takes off on foot, continuing the chase. The DoorDash driver pops up, seemingly unfazed, and finishes her job, delivering the food to the customer's doorstep. KTRK reports the suspect was wanted on a burglary warrant and was arrested. The delivery driver escaped the close call with only minor aches and pains. By the way, her name, appropriately enough, is Miracle. It's a miracle nobody was injured in this newly released video from July 4th showing what authorities say were fireworks being shot from a moving vehicle on a Florida highway. St. Johns County Sheriff's Office air units caught the dangerous display and followed the alleged offending vehicle for miles before deputies pulled it over. An arrest was made at the scene, but according to WJXT, the charge was later dropped. The Sheriff's Office still shared the video to warn others, saying fireworks are a fun way to celebrate, but only when handled safely and responsibly. Finally, this last one from the air up there is anything but boring, but you wouldn't know it to look at it. Images from airline tracking website Flight Radar 24 suggest a pilot, who the airline says was executing a 2-hour test flight over the UK, wasn't digging it, scrawling the words, "I'm bored," into the sky via their flight pattern. An airline operations manager told the BBC, bored or not, the pilot's gag required some pretty skillful flying.
Imagine being so bored you ride it with a plane in the air. So President Trump is set to headline a defense summit in Pennsylvania today. The 2-day gathering at the U.S. Army War College brings together defense executives, administration officials, and lawmakers. Those in attendance will discuss investments in weapons production and battlefield technology. The summit comes after U.S. strikes on Iran reduced supplies of key systems, including Tomahawk cruise missiles, Patriot missiles, and THAAD interceptors. The White House is urging Congress to approve a $1.5 trillion defense budget as the administration pushes to expand America's defense industrial base. Today marks 35 years since the end of communist rule in Ukraine. During the commemoration, Ukrainian President Zelensky talked about Kyiv's plans to produce U.S.-designed Patriot missiles. More news after this break. Stay tuned.
I trod on my glasses yesterday, and I had to pay up front for a new pair that I can't even pick up for another 10 days. So I looked for another way, and I found Select Specs. I ordered online. My new glasses just arrived this morning, and I can pay over the next few weeks. This is the way to buy glasses.
See now, pay later with Select Specs. Next day delivery and deferred payment options, only at selectspecs.com.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretang Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional 9-round handcrafted process of steaming and drying to unlock full potency and absorption. Experience pure, natural energy with Puretang Black Ginseng. Order now at puretang.com.
Hi, I'm Jane Seymour, and I spent years on TV playing a doctor. But I learned about the heartbreaking reality of heart disease and stroke when they touched my own life. My father nearly died before having a quadruple bypass and valve replacement that saved him. And my mom, who was my inspiration, suffered a stroke that took away her speech, her ability to move, and ultimately her life. To see someone so vibrant, so positive, who'd survived so much in life, be debilitated by a stroke, it was devastating. And also a wake-up call. And that's why I'm so passionate about supporting the American Heart Association. They're doing more every day to stop needless deaths. But they simply can't do their life-saving work without you. So please, call now or go to helpheart.org. And for only $19 a month, Just 63 cents a day, your donation will go to work to do amazing things, like fund the next medical breakthrough, get the next person trained in CPR, and the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I hope that you'll open your heart right now and join me. Please call now or go to helpheart.org. Give $19 a month and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can proudly wear to show that you're part of a community of monthly donors who are helping save lives. A healthy heart, it's the spirit of life. It makes it possible to do the things that you love, to spend time with your friends and family and fulfill your life's dreams. But so many won't have that chance. Heart disease is America's #1 killer and the #1 killer of women. And that's why I'll do whatever I can to make sure others don't die from heart disease before their time. So please join me.
Please call or go online to helpheart.org, become a monthly donor, and for a limited time only, your first month's gift will be matched.
Thank you.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. The U.S. hitting Iran with fresh strikes and a renewed naval blockade, and President Trump issuing a new threat about Tehran's energy centers if the regime doesn't come to the negotiating table. President Trump's pick to lead the Justice Department is facing questioning today as Todd Blanche begins his confirmation hearing for Attorney General. The president's pick for Director of Intelligence is also appearing before the Senate. Jay Clayton shares his previous national security experience and takes questions on how he views U.S. adversaries. President Trump is throwing his support behind a familiar name in Minnesota's governor's race. Why he's endorsing MyPillow founder Mike Lindell and how the race is shaping up. The FDA is investigating a growing multi-state outbreak that sickened more than 1,600 people. Why officials are now focusing on produce and what symptoms doctors are being told to watch for. Today marks 35 years since the end of communist rule in Ukraine. During the commemoration, Ukrainian President Zelensky talked about Kyiv's plans to produce U.S.-designed Patriot missiles.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Thank you for joining us. President Trump with a new warning for Iran after the regime repeatedly violated the ceasefire. This coming as the U.S. military launches its 5th consecutive day of strikes against Tehran. We now go live to NTD's White House correspondent Mari Otsu at the North Lawn. Mari, good afternoon.
Hey, Don. Good afternoon to you. That's right. The U.S. Central Command this morning launching its first round of morning strikes since the beginning of Operation Epic Fury back in February there. And as you said, it's the 5th consecutive day of strikes here after Iran repeatedly violated that ceasefire agreement by striking at commercial vessels going through the Strait of Hormuz. Also yesterday, the U.S. reimposed its naval blockade on Iranian ports, Central Command today, saying that since then, 2 vessels have already been redirected as they were trying to either exit or enter Iranian ports there. And President Trump in a new interview saying that the strikes are not going to stop until he says it's enough. And he says that the energy centers like power plants and bridges will be struck next week if Iran doesn't come to the negotiating table. Take a look.
I'll save the energy targets for last, but ultimately we'll hit energy targets, yeah. But we're going to hit them very hard tonight. We're going to hit them very hard tomorrow night. We're going to hit them very hard the night after. And then next week, it gets really bad for them because next week comes the power plants. Next week comes the bridges. We're going to knock out all their power plants. We're going to knock out all their bridges unless they get to the table and negotiate.
Meanwhile, Don, in terms of economic retribution, the U.S. Treasury today is sanctioning 7 individuals and entities associated with a global network of weapons procurement that was helping out the IRGC there. The network includes Iranian, Russian, Italian, and Nigerian actors who used means that included aviation firms, travel coordinators, and financial conduits to secretly acquire weapons for the IRGC and move material and personnel for Iran's weapons programs. And, of course, amid these continued economic moves and amid the military moves, Vice President Vance today is also clarifying the administration's strategy here, saying that the strikes are not indefinite, but about getting a certain goal met. Take a look.
We're not just going to do something open-ended indefinitely. We're not just going to bomb and bomb and bomb. We're going to try to use our military force as one of the many tools that we have to solve the problem. If the Iranian people want to rise up and change their government, that's up to them. But we're not going to send 150,000 ground troops in order to accomplish a change in a regime unless the people on the ground themselves want to accomplish that outcome.
And Don, President Trump will soon be speaking at the Defense and Innovation Summit in Pennsylvania today, where he's expected to talk about his upcoming request to Congress for a Department of War budget of $1.5 trillion. The White House also saying that the president will be announcing over $10 billion in deals that are going to support 4,000 new jobs in Pennsylvania. Back to you.
All right, Mari, thank you. An Iranian-born man has been convicted of illegally exporting sensitive U.S.-made electronic components to Iran in violation of sanctions. Prosecutors say Mahdi Mohammad Sadeghi worked with an alleged accomplice to transfer electronics through a Swiss front company before they were shipped to an Iranian company. He is a dual U.S.-Iranian citizen. The Justice Department says the Iranian company supplied navigation systems used in drones and other weapon systems, including in a drone recovered after a 2024 attack in Jordan that killed 3 U.S. service members and wounded more than 40 others. Court documents say the exported items are subject to strict U.S. export controls. The FBI says the case should serve as a warning to companies violating export laws and illegally transferring American technology to U.S. adversaries. Sadeghi faces up to 20 years in prison on each count. And staying in the Middle East, Iran and Lebanon are taking steps to implement a withdrawal agreement. This comes after 2 days of U.S.-mediated talks in Rome. The U.S. State Department announces that Israeli forces would withdraw from pilot zones in southern Lebanon and turn over control to the Lebanese army. Lebanon would clear the areas of any Hezbollah presence. The U.S. says the two sides agreed on the structure and the guidelines for the pilot zone process. They will be finalized and implemented in the coming days. It's unclear where exactly the pilot zones would be. Israel and Lebanon announced a framework withdrawal agreement on June 26, but implementation on the ground had stalled ahead of this week's talks. Hezbollah and Iran had sought to link the end of the war in Lebanon to the outcome of broader U.S.-Iran talks. The Lebanese government, meanwhile, aimed to negotiate a ceasefire directly with Israel. The Department of War will be conducting annual testosterone screenings for service members. War Secretary Pete Hegseth says this is an effort to ensure the troops' maximum physical and mental readiness.
We must constantly look for new ways to optimize your performance, your resilience, and your long-term health. And to meet that commitment today, I'm authorizing a new screening program for testosterone deficiency for our service members, ensuring you have the right testosterone levels to operate at your absolute best.
Testosterone deficiency can cause muscle loss, fatigue, weight gain, and other illnesses. Service members aged 30 and older will be tested for testosterone levels annually as part of their periodic health assessment. Those under 30 can also choose to get the test. If treatment is recommended, it's up to the service members to receive testosterone replacement therapy. Hegseth says the new screenings are not about artificial enhancement. They're about keeping U.S. service members on the leading edge of lethality and optimizing their natural capabilities. The War Secretary adds that America's most decisive tactical advantage will always be the individual warfighter. A federal judge has awarded over $300 million in damages to 3 Americans who were jailed and allegedly tortured in Venezuela. The judge saying a criminal enterprise controlled by former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was responsible. In 2023, Maduro's government freed Gerald Kennemore, Jason Saad, and Edgar Marval after months in prison. They were exchanged for Alex Saab, Venezuela's former Minister of Industry and National Production. Saab had been awaiting trial in the U.S. on money laundering charges before the prisoner swap. Last year, 3 Americans sued several senior Venezuelan officials. The plaintiffs claimed they were subjected to physical and psychological torture, including electrocution, stress positions, and beatings. The judge issued a default judgment this week against Maduro, Saab, and other defendants in the lawsuit. And a new bank rate analysis found that 90% of U.S. homebuyers pay more for their mortgage. Joining us now to discuss is Alex Gailey, data reporter and analyst at Bankrate. So, Alex, good afternoon. Thank you for being on the show with us today. So, I want you to talk to us about the situation. What exactly is happening and why is it happening?
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Our research at Bankrate found that 9 in 10 homebuyers are paying more than they have to for their mortgage. And for the typical U.S. borrower, this adds up to more than $3,300 a year. And it's happening because most borrowers don't know that they should shop for their mortgage. And it's also easy to get overwhelmed during the mortgage shopping process, and there's not a way to easily compare offers. And so what's happening a lot of time is that they're just going with the first lender that's referred to them by their family, friend, or realtor.
Okay, so you're saying homeowners, potential buyers, are not shopping around. So does that mean, do lenders offer similar or are there meaningfully differences in their rates?
There are meaningful differences across lenders. Lenders have different business models, cost structures, and they have flexibility in how they price loans, especially conventional mortgages. And our study found that the average gap between the rates that borrowers locked in and the best available rate in their market, it goes out to be nearly a full percentage point. So on a home loan, that slight variation does add up to thousands of dollars over the life of the loan.
Okay, so nearly a percentage point. Can you give us a clear picture of what that looks like in the real world? Are we talking about $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 over the lifespan of an entire mortgage?
So the typical U.S. borrower is overpaying about $78,000 over the life of a 30-year mortgage. That breaks down to roughly $279 a month, and a fraction of a percent might look small on paper, but that's $65 billion that is leaving household budgets every year because of mortgage overpayments.
So what is your recommendation then? You said sometimes it's not very obvious that different lenders have different rates. So how do you avoid overpaying?
You have to break out of the single quote loop. Just don't settle for that first offer that you get from your bank or from that referral. Make sure that you are going out there, you're talking to at least 3 lenders, ideally on the same day, so that you can accurately compare those rates and those fees, and use those initial quotes as your research and your ammo, so that when it comes time to actually submit that mortgage application, after you get your offer accepted, you can actually know where you stand, and then you can put all those mortgage loan estimates you're getting from the applications up against each other, and you can really see what is the best rate you get. You want lenders to compete for your business, and don't worry about putting too many applications in within a short amount of time, because credit bureaus do count that all together, and it'll just be one hit to your credit score.
So why are people, not shopping around for the best rate? Because if you think about it, it's sort of funny, because if you're just buying a product online, for example, on Amazon or any other website, you don't immediately click buy on the very first thing you see. You scroll a little bit. So, I mean, when it comes to a mortgage, one of the biggest financial decisions that people could make in their lives, they're not shopping around. Why is that?
Well, buying a home is incredibly stressful and emotional, and there's a mountain of paperwork. There's a lot of steps that are involved in the process, and people naturally get really focused on whether they'll even get approved for that mortgage, whether they can find the perfect home, and so they just naturally overlook the shopping for a mortgage step, and a lot of times they're paying a price for that convenience. We even find that borrowers with better credit and higher incomes are more likely to overpay, because they're more likely to just take that first lender that they get referred to, because they're not as worried about getting approved for the home loan. And again, that convenience is coming at a cost.
Okay, so you said earlier, don't be too hesitant. Don't worry about submitting too many applications. So how many are we talking about? How many mortgage quotes would be a good starting point?
A good starting point when you're shopping for a mortgage or putting those applications in is 3. That really allows you to see what your options are in front of you in terms of the rates and the upfront fees you'll pay. And that will allow you to have a better shot at getting that more competitive rate, and ideally putting that $3,300 a year back into your pocket for other important financial goals. So I would say start with 3. And if you need to go up from there, then certainly you should do it.
And does where people live matter? For example, does it matter if you're in a high-cost housing market? Are you more susceptible to overpayments?
So, mortgage overpayments, this isn't just happening in a few places, it's happening across the country. We analyzed more than 350 metros, and we didn't find a single market where borrowers aren't overpaying. And across all these hundreds of metros, the borrowers miss their market's most competitive rate on average by 80 basis points. You do see that in high cost coastal markets like Los Angeles, the total average wealth loss is you're losing that to overpayment is the highest, and roughly $150,000 over the life of the loan. However, there are smaller markets in the Western region, in Texas and Indiana, that actually see the highest gaps between the rates that borrowers lock in and the best available rates in those markets.
Okay, so just one final thing here, Alex. Let's say you've looked at a couple of lenders, you find one that you like. Do you think negotiating further is a good idea? Or maybe even if you haven't found a lender, you're just starting out, should you negotiate for a good price, a good rate? Is that a good strategy?
Negotiation is a good strategy when you're shopping for a mortgage. However, you need leverage to effectively bargain. And so that is why it's so important that when you're getting these quotes or even submitting these mortgage applications, that you're doing it with multiple lenders so that you can go back to a lender and tell them what other offers and rates and fees you're seeing, and you can really bargain that way, and you have that leverage in order to secure that most competitive rate. And trust me, lenders, they want your business and they're willing to compete for it. You just have to force them to.
Well, all right, Alex, really good tips today. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
President Trump is throwing his support behind a familiar name in Minnesota's governor's race, why he's endorsing MyPillow founder Mike Lindell, and how the race is shaping up. More news after this break. Stay tuned for NTD Newsroom.
MyPillow's second annual mega sale is finally here. Get our patented premium MyPillows that adjust to your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep of your life.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
Now for the lowest price ever. Kings, $19.98, Queens, only $18.98. And Giza Dream bed sheets, the best sheets in history, for as low as $29.98. Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, towels that actually dry you, what a concept, now only $39.98. And our made in the USA mattresses and mattress toppers as low as $99.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But that's not all. Order right now and we'll ship your order absolutely free.
What if kids in America didn't have to go to bed hungry tonight? What if our moms, dads, and grandparents could put healthy food on the table every day to help us grow strong? What if all of our friends and neighbors had fresh food too, and there was no hunger at all in America? And what if there was a way today for you to help? Call now or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. So many of us don't have enough food to eat, but your monthly gift means families across the country and in your community can fill plates with food. Kids can get healthy meals year-round, even when school's out, and our neighbors can have fresh food. Food that moms, dads, entire families need to thrive. But right now, more people are facing hunger. Feeding America works from coast to coast with partner food banks, food pantries, and meal programs. It takes all of us to make that happen. Will you help too? Please call the number on your screen or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give just $19 a month, and we'll send you this free canvas grocery bag. It's our way of saying thank you for helping to end hunger for our neighbors. Because no kid, no mom or dad, nobody should go hungry in America. Nobody. So what if today was the day you could help nourish futures for our friends, our families, for all of us. Ending hunger is possible. What if we end it together? Call or give online today at helpfeedingamerica.org and your gift can be doubled. Thank you.
President Trump endorses MyPillow founder Mike Lindell for Minnesota governor, the president posting his endorsement on Truth Social. President Trump calling Lindell the Pillow Man, praising him as, quote, one of America's greatest and most hardworking patriots. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is not running for re-election amid allegations of widespread fraud in the state. He said the campaign would pull his focus away from confronting the problem. Federal investigations into the state's handling of federally supported child care programs are ongoing. Longtime Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar is the leading Democratic candidate for governor. There currently are 26 Republican governors and 24 Democratic governors across the country. 36 gubernatorial elections will take place in November. The Department of Agriculture is touting its progress in fighting fraud in SNAP benefits. Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins says her department has found billions of dollars in just a year and a half. Rollins tells News Nation that her department will soon have discovered $10 billion in SNAP benefits fraud and has already made 1,000 arrests. SNAP is a federally funded program of the USDA, but administered by individual states. Rollins notes that every Republican governor has worked with the USDA to crack down on fraud, but only 2 Democratic governors have done so. 20 Democratic states are suing the USDA for trying work requirements or tying them to SNAP eligibility. The Agricultural Secretary says she is focused on targeting those who really need the SNAP program and says the USDA is making a lot of progress. On Capitol Hill this morning, a key confirmation hearing. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche answered questions from senators who will have to vote on whether to confirm him as the Justice Department's new leader. NTD's Melina Weiskup is on Capitol Hill with the updates.
Todd Blanche has served as the acting attorney general since April, when the president previously fired the attorney general Pam Bondi at the time. And he served also in the capacity of President Trump's personal lawyer back in 2023 and 2024. Senator Chuck Grassley, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, kicked off today's confirmation hearing, talking about the fact that he thinks credit should be given where credit is due, talking about the work that Blanche has done so far in his department to tackle fraud within the federal government, narco-terrorism, DEI, and weaponization under the Biden administration. Steph, here's Grassley.
We've established the National Fraud Enforcement Division to address more than $5 billion in fraud against American taxpayers. They've reduced the immigration case log by more than 468,000. They've challenged and eliminated racist and unlawful discrimination in government and the private sector. They're exposing and readdressing the Biden-era weaponization of the department against political opponents.
Other senators doubling down once again on the proposed $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund. Remember, this was a fund proposed by the Trump administration that would have compensated Americans who were deemed to have been unlawfully targeted or faced lawfare by the government. Blanche, when pressed again about why he couldn't put his commitment to keeping that fund dead in writing, he told senators this.
You've repeatedly refused to put that commitment in writing or to submit a declaration to the court.
There's long-standing precedent that judges cannot ask cabinet secretaries or people like me to put in declarations. It has nothing to do with whether the fund is alive. I'm under oath today, and I've said it's dead repeatedly.
Now, considering the slim majority that Republicans have right now, it's likely that the confirmation vote for Blanche will come down to the wire.
He can't lose any Republican votes, but I assume Republicans will vote for him, so.
Are you a yes?
Oh, it's not over yet.
Another big focus of today's hearing, of course, was the Epstein files. Remember, a judge just ruled last month that the FBI is required to reveal previously blocked out passages from the Epstein files. Blanche admitted to senators today that there was a mistake in the redaction process, but he has taken action to correct those mistakes. Listen.
Some allegations include problematic redactions, insufficient effort to follow investigative leads.
When President Trump signed the Epstein Transparency Act, the Department of Justice undertook a Herculean task to review millions and millions of potentially responsive files. They took pains to apply appropriate redactions. There were mistakes that were made, and so approximately 1% of the redactions had to be fixed. Remember, for 4 years, there wasn't a peep about Jeffrey Epstein. The Biden administration did nothing to be transparent about the Epstein case.
Several of the survivors of Epstein's crimes were present in the committee room listening to this confirmation hearing today. Today was the first of a 2-day hearing with Blanche. Tomorrow he'll face questions from an outside panel of witnesses solely focused on his character. Back to you.
President Trump's nominee for Director of National Intelligence is appearing before the Senate. Here's Jay Clayton speaking to the Senate Intelligence Committee during his confirmation hearing.
I intend to approach the D&I role in the same way I have approached these roles. Mission-focused and team-oriented, taking on the challenges and seizing the opportunities. The mission of the Director of National Intelligence is clear: to ensure that the policymakers and institutions that the intelligence community serves, especially the President, our military leaders, and Congress, receive the best possible intelligence in a timely, objective, and independent manner. That mission and obligation will be front of mind every day.
Clayton has served as U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York and chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission. He says that as U.S. Attorney, he gained significant national security experience, including in matters involving foreign terrorist organizations, counter-espionage, money laundering, and bribery. Clayton says that as SEC chair, he directly confronted issues with national security implications. They involve cybersecurity and combating Chinese exploitation of U.S. markets. Senator Tom Cotton asking the nominee how he views China and Russia.
Isn't that particularly true as we think about our struggle for mastery with China and also checking Russian aggression around the world, that economic matters are vitally important when we're facing traditional nation-state actors like Russia and China?
Senator Cotton, Chair Cotton, I could not agree more that our adversaries not only look at kinetic and other what I would call traditional ways to harm Americans, they look at economic ways to harm Americans.
Clayton says if he gets confirmed, he will work to strengthen the coordination and communication between the intelligence community and the people they serve. He says he will focus on enhancing the trust of the American people in the intelligence community and the federal government generally. Next, artificial intelligence and your electric bill. Data centers, the big warehouses of servers that power AI when you ask anything, are putting a squeeze on the grid, and the Trump administration is stepping in. It's bringing together utility companies, data centers, developers, and states. The goal is to keep those extra costs off your bill. NTD's data reporter Kevin Hogan gives us insight into the power struggle.
Who pays when AI raises power costs? You do, the private citizen living near the data centers. How do we know? Bloomberg used very meaningful, granular local data and determined that wholesale electricity costs up to 267% more after data centers moved in. That wholesale price is what the utilities pay the power plants to get the power to you, and that price increase is being passed on to you. So what does that wholesale price look like graphically? In 2020, before the data centers moved in, we have this baseline wholesale price. Think of it like an average. Then fast forward about 5 years to 2025, that wholesale price is up to triple or even higher in those same areas after the data centers moved in. That means on the supply side of your bill, you could be seeing some hefty price pressure. Not all areas near data centers saw wholesale power prices triple, but generally it's between right about there, a small increase to up to over 3.5 times more. So that's a problem for the private citizen when those utility companies pass those prices on to you. They don't always pass all of it on, but some residents in Baltimore say their bill has gone up about 80%. So that's a very, very steep increase. And they tell Bloomberg, they wonder, what is your breaking point? The bigger problem is that AI is going to soak up about 70% more power globally in just a few years by 2030. So that's an estimate according to the International Energy Agency. So how much power does AI use right now across the world? About the same amount of power as 11 New York cities. This is according to New York City data. But in 2030, that's going to shoot up not 12, not 15, but 19 New York cities. That's according to the agency's average estimate. And their high-end estimate has that number at 25. So this could be even more, doubling what it is now. Now, looking ahead, this is a real wake-up call. Simple logic tells us that if no one does anything about these price pressures in your bill, they're just going to go up even further. The question then arises, should AI data centers bring their own power generation? Leaders in the power infrastructure industry say data centers should come with their own power because grids take time to expand, and if the AI boom isn't handled correctly, it can break public trust. Remember, higher power bills. What about the people in power? What do they say? Well, Texas Governor Greg Abbott recently told News Nation that they must bring their own power. He says this will keep residents and small businesses from footing the bill. Also in Texas, Chevron has signed an agreement with Microsoft to provide power on site at their data centers in West Texas. It's a 20-year purchase, so some do bring their own power. Now let's zoom out across the nation. What are some of the efforts to stop data centers from raising power bills? 300 state proposals, and that's just in the first couple weeks of this year. That's across over 30 states, okay? Now, that's according to multi-state. All different types of legislation. We want to look specifically now at state bills to ban new AI data centers, specifically moratoriums. So at this rate, we can see that these are just a temporary ban or pause, and they're doing this so that they can get some regulations in place before they start letting more of these data centers move in. Many bills have been introduced, for example, in Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Some have failed, like in New Hampshire, for example, Oklahoma, Wisconsin. In Maine, the governor vetoed it. And in New York, on Tuesday, Governor Kathy Hochul signed an executive order that creates the nation's first moratorium on new hyperscale data centers. So now let's zoom in on a few states to see what they're doing to protect ratepayers, the people who pay electric bills. Georgia, for example, is preparing for the AI data center boom. This is according to the Georgia Public Service Commission. They're planning to acquire the equivalent of 10 more nuclear power plants. Pardon me. That's 10 more nuclear power plants that they're looking to bring in. This might not all be in the form of nuclear power plants, but it'll be the equivalent generation. Okay? Now, that just means that they might bring in some oil plants, or they might import some energy from outside of the state, but the equivalent of 10 nuclear power plants. They're also freezing base rates until 2028. That doesn't mean your whole bill is frozen at the current rate. This is to help keep some of those costs from AI from shifting to you. So what does that increase in power generation mean for you? It could keep an additional $8.50 off your bill. Regulators say this should help ease price pressures by that much. The question is, what if the AI data centers cause your bill to rise more than $8.50? It would seem that in that case, this increase in power supply wouldn't do enough. Now, let's look at another state, Oregon. That state is telling AI, pay your own power bill so that the private citizens don't have to pay it. They passed a law, and now the Public Utility Commission of Oregon is forcing AI data centers to pay 100% of the cost to build out the grid to service them, whether that's substations, power plants, power lines, etc., and 90% of the power they asked for, whether they use it or not. So these companies can't just come in and say, okay, get everything ready for a big data center, we're going to build it, and we need this much power. And then they build all of this infrastructure, and then the data center company either goes bankrupt or they go to a different state because power is cheaper there. So they have to pay 90% of the power that they asked for regardless. But there's a twist. AI moved in, and then power bills rose. But Oregon says, not again. So what Oregon's doing right now is trying to keep future increases off your bill. But the fact is that AI data centers have already been a driving factor in electric bills shooting up about 50%. Okay, so that's very significant that some areas are seeing that. Now, that's in parts of the state in the last several years. So that 50% is already baked in. Oregon's just saying no more increases. So from here on out, Oregon is saying that AI companies are going to pay a little more while you pay a little less. That means the rates for power that data centers pay are going to go up about 30%. And the rates residents pay will go down about 1.3%. So that means it's not going up for you, and it's going down. It's going down a little bit for you. So which might help offset a little bit of that price increase that was already baked in from those early data centers. But again, some power bills went up 50%, even if only a fraction of that is from the AI data centers. This increase of 1.3%, the decrease of 1.3%, still might not make up for it. So these rate changes are according to the Portland General Electric Utility Company, and they are locked in. Back to you.
President Trump is taking the stage now in Pennsylvania, addressing military, industry, and the technology leaders at the Defense and Innovation Summit. Let's take a look.
We've all heard it, and it became hot. Lee became very wealthy. Lee Greenwood, he's fabulous, and I want to thank him. He's been with us from the beginning. A great guy, great talent. And Pennsylvania, you are really rocking. You got the big ones here. And David, Dina. Now I'm in a world where I'm shaking hands with all celebrity business people mostly, but they're biggest names in business, and they're all spending money in our country, but they're all spending money in Pennsylvania. So I just want to say thank you. But this is a hot place. We would say it's a hot commonwealth. Never call it a state, you're in deep trouble. I've seen people's political careers end over that. Just call it a commonwealth. A lot of people don't remember that. But I think it's great to see what's going on and to see the kind of genius that I'm surrounded by. All of the people that I met backstage, but it's pure genius. I want to thank Senator David McCormick for organizing this extraordinary event, and I came to another one with you about a year ago, and that was a monster, but it wasn't like this one. This is even beyond. That was on energy, and it was very impressive, but this is something crazy what's going on. Outstanding work on behalf of the incredible people of Pennsylvania. You know, he followed me along the campaign trail, and he had a tough race. It was a tough race. A lot of people wouldn't have had the courage to do it. It takes guts to run for office. People don't know that. Only the people that never get there know it. But the fact that you did what you did it once, and you did it really well, but things didn't work out, and you did it a second time against actually a much tougher opponent, and it wasn't even close. So I think he's a great guy, great, spectacular guy with a great helper, right? But we're here today to celebrate a colossal victory for this Commonwealth and for the entire nation. This afternoon, we're announcing nearly $10 billion of new investments in our defense industrial base right here in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And these investments will create more than 4,000 jobs. Pennsylvania workers will build the ships, submarines, trucks, weapons, and industries that will ensure America remains the strongest and most powerful nation in the history of the world. We're doing better now than we've ever done. We have $19.2 trillion. We used to go million, then we went billion, now we're into the trillions, but there's never been anything like it. The country is as hot as it's ever been, and we're doing really well with Iran. The Islamic Republic of Iran is not happy right now. Should have been done 47 years ago. Should have been done at least during the 47-year period. And it wasn't. Other presidents didn't do what was right. They should have done it a long time ago. It would have been much easier. And they want to settle so badly. They don't like what we're doing. And they do want to settle. We'll find out whether or not we settle with them or we just finish it off. But I want to thank Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. He's been amazing. Pete, thank you very much. Great job. He's been really amazing. You know, he used to do interviews. All he wanted to talk about is war. Sir, would you give a pardon to 19 soldiers? Why? Well, they killed a lot of people. They were trained to kill, and that's what they did. And I pardoned a lot of people. But they've all been well behaved, right? Okay, good. Otherwise, it'll be a big story. Trump shouldn't have let him go. But I'm blaming you, Pete, okay? But he was very successful, actually, on television. I think he probably hated it because he can't love anything more than what he's doing right now, and he's doing it incredibly well. So great job, Pete. Appreciate it. Small Business Administrator Kelly Loeffler. Kelly, wherever you may be. Thank you very much. She's great. Secretary of the Army Dan Driscoll, who's really out there with that beautiful smile. With that beautiful smile, but he's actually a killer. Look at that beautiful, nice face. Everything's so happy. He's a killer. Would you believe it? Those are the best kinds, actually. Commanding General of the Army, Trevor Bredenkamp. Trevor, thank you very much. And a couple of warriors in a different way, but they are great. Scott Perry and John Joyce, congressmen, and they are fantastic, and they've been my friends for a long time. Where are you? You've been my friends for a long time. They're tough cookies, and they want what's right for the country. Thanks as well to your amazing state treasurer, Stacey Garrity, who is running for governor, and I'm telling you, this guy Shapiro is totally overrated. I watched him the other night doing a speech, and he does not have what it takes. Maybe he'll win, and he's expected to win, but I hear things about Stacey, and I'm hearing some poll numbers that are very good, but Shapiro is, he doesn't have what it takes. Now, people think that's a horrible statement to make, but that's the way politics is. That's the way it is. I tell the truth. Attorney General David Sunday. David, thank you very much. Great job, I hear. And probably the most important person in the room is Senator McCormick's wife, Dina. I mean, I know Dina. Dina worked for me for 4 years. She worked for me. I know her almost as well as David, hopefully not quite as well. But Dina has been, she's been amazing, and she's gotten a very nice position as the president of Meta, working with a very good guy. So a lot of good people, but one in particular, so good luck, and they're doing a fantastic job. Thank you. She was great. She worked in the administration, first term, and she was fantastic. We also have a big name, a very big name, a very brilliant name, somebody who's done, I guess, in the history, I'll make enemies when I say this, but I shouldn't because I think it's true. Jamie Dimon is maybe the greatest banker in this country in many, many decades. So, CEO of JP Morgan Chase. Thank you, Jamie. The president of General Dynamics, Danny Deep. And, you know, they make the greatest submarine in the world. They just have to make them faster. Danny, will you please make them faster? That's true with all of the munitions people, actually. Faster, we need a little more speed. We have the best quality in the world, but we need a little more speed. The president of Hanwha Defense USA, Michael Coulter. Thank you, Michael, out there. The president and total boss of Boeing, that's Kelly Ortberg, who's a terrific guy. I think he just gave me the award for being the salesman he started of the year. I said, that's not the year. Then he said, what about the decade? Nope, much more than that. So it's the salesman in the history of Boeing. I have sold more Boeing planes, over 1,000, and nobody comes close. You know what I got for that? Nothing. I get nothing. Now, if I was in the private sector, I'd say I want a piece of the company for that, right? But Kelly, you've done a great job. You're bringing it really back, and you're up to 44 planes now. Or 44. They're producing the planes at a very rapid rate, and Kelly has done a tremendous job. President of Northrop Grumman, Kathy Warden, showed us a plane that I like a lot. President of Lockheed Martin, Jim Takelet. Jim, thank you very much. Thank you, Jim. Good job you're doing. President and COO of Blackstone, a friend of mine from the real estate wars. He was a brilliant guy. I always said, this guy's always there first. What's with him? John Gray, he's a real estate genius, and other geniuses. Now real estate, he doesn't even have to participate, he said, but you've done a great job, and say hello to you-know-who. He's a tremendous guy. He's been a big help. Steve has been a big help. Co-chairman of TWG Global, Thomas Tull. Thank you, Thomas. CEO of Divergent Technologies, Lucas Zinger. I just saw some of their technology. It's amazing. I saw some of those things backstage. You don't want to talk about them. They're pretty amazing. CEO of EQT, Toby Rice. Thank you, Toby. President of North America's Building Trades Unions. He's the most powerful man in the room. It's Dina for the women, and it's this guy for the men. Sean McGarvey. Thanks. Thanks, Sean. Sean McGarvey, good guy too. And the founder of Valor Equity Partners, Antonio Gracious, and he's somebody highly respected by everybody, including my family, my kids, and also helped us tremendously working at the early stages of the administration with costs, because we inherited a cost mess, and he was fantastic, and I want to thank him, and Elon too. Elon did a fantastic job. This year we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of American freedom, and no state has been more central to protecting that freedom than the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is where America declared its independence, where George Washington crossed to Delaware, where the Union was saved by the heroes of Gettysburg. What a war that was when you read about it. And where Pennsylvania workers poured the iron and steel that won 2 world wars and won lots of other things in addition. With today's announcement, Pennsylvania will play a key role in building the arsenal of freedom to defend our nation in the modern world. We have things happening in this state. I think really people don't know what's happening in Pennsylvania. People aren't really, literally, they're not able to even fathom what's going on. And I'm just saying back there, I thought I was very well aware of it. And then I'm meeting people, very well-known people, and they're saying what they're doing here. We got to get the word out a little bit, because this is very much of a miracle, very much of a miracle. Highly respected people. The talent and innovation in this room will keep America safe for many years to come. They are very advanced, the most advanced equipment anywhere in the world. Under the Trump administration, we've invested a record $1 trillion in the United States military, and next year, I'm proud to say, and Pete, we have to get moving on this, $1.5 trillion we're going up to. We need it. It's all made in the USA, so it's not, as Sean, it's not fully a cost. You know, it's cost. We got to take something, but it's called jobs, and when you think of it that way. But 1.5, I built the military in my first term, and I used it in my second term, and as you know, Venezuela was actually 48 minutes, but let's call it 1 day. And we've paid for the cost of that war 50 times over, more than 50 times over already. And they've been great, the people from Venezuela. The leadership has been fantastic, and we're working with them. And the big oil companies are moving in. They've made more money for themselves in the last few months than they made in the history of the country. And it's just it's being properly run. They have oil. They have so much oil. You find the oil there, Pete, you just look down on the ground and you say, oh, that's oil. Just drill it. There's very few places that have anything like that. But we have a great relationship with the leadership. We've worked with them very closely, and we're bringing all the big American companies in, and it's been very much of a miracle. Millions and millions of barrels a day. The spirit of our armed forces is the highest it's ever been, with every branch setting records for recruitment. And I will tell you, during the campaign, when I was running against Kamala, she had no clue, but Joe had no clue either. That's why they got him out of there. I had to run against 2 people. Everyone else runs against 1 person. You do well. Joe wasn't doing too well. He was down like 28 points. So they said, let's replace him. That's like replacing a fighter. You're doing great against the guy. I said, let's put somebody else in. Fortunately, she wasn't much better than he was. And somebody said she's leading in the polls. That's not possible. But if she is, that's fine. You got to go out, you got to win. But what's happened with the election, this was an amazing election. Think of it, we won every swing state. We won the popular vote by a lot. We won 82%, 87% of the counties in America. That's a big one. We won the Electoral College. We won everything. But all 7 swing states, the big thing was, could anybody ever win all 7? We won all 7 swing states, and we won them by a lot. So it was a great, great achievement. But when it came to joining the military, we had vacancies, empties. We had a situation that actually it was remedied largely, Pete, I think on November 5th when we won. It was even before we took office, it was remedied to a certain extent. And when we took office, so now we have overflow crowds trying to get into the military. And that includes our policemen, our firemen, anybody with a uniform on. They were very ashamed of our country, and now they're very proud of our country. And we're setting recruitment records like we've never had before. In fact, it's a great time if you want to expand the military a little bit. It wouldn't be bad because we have unbelievable, talented, in good shape, in unbelievably good shape. You know, we had something pass in the United States Supreme Court. It was called merit, and nobody thought that was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to happen, actually. We're trying to get it. And everything now in our country, again, is based on merit. Getting into colleges is based on merit. When you have somebody with great boards, great marks, all A pluses and A's and the highest board marks, and then doesn't get it because somebody with far less capability gets in, it's nasty, but it's, you know, our country was built on greatness, and it was based on success. It was based on merit. And now we have that, and that includes the military. And the people that we have in this military, you can send most of them to Hollywood, and they could become like movie stars. They are unbelievable, and you saw that in Venezuela. I met them backstage, and these are people that are. It's a whole different ballgame. So I just want to thank everybody. That was a decision. That was a tough decision to make. And it took courage to make that decision. Nobody thought that was going to be made, but they gave us back our beautiful merit system. And now the best people get into the best positions. They get into the best schools. They get into the military. We actually have strong people going into the military now as opposed to people that aren't strong or that shouldn't be there. And it's like, I call it central casting. Washington, D.C., we're using the military in there. And our crime rate's down 92%, and it's gone from an unsafe city to one of the safest cities, the capital, one of the safest cities anywhere in the country. Restaurants are booming. The restaurants were all closing. People were afraid to go to a restaurant. We took out over 5,000 criminals. We got them out of here. We got them, sent them back to their country. Many of them came through the Biden open borders, which was insanity. We got them out of this country, and we did a real job in Washington, D.C., and I will say Memphis is a similar kind of a thing, a little bit. We started it a little bit later, but they're down in crime 78%. And New Orleans, Louisiana, the governor called me up, Jeff Landry, great guy. He called me and he said, we have a problem. We have the Mardi Gras coming up, and this place is loaded up with crime. And we sent in the National Guard and others, and it was the safest that is on record, the safest Mardi Gras on record. They've never had anything like it. He called me two days later. He said, I've never seen anything like it. It's a terrible expression. He said, nobody was killed. Well, that doesn't sound so good to say, frankly, in one way. But in another way, many people would be killed during Mardi Gras consistently. And now it was the safest they've had, he said, in 67 years. So it's pretty good. But we're going out for the $1.5 trillion this year, and I think we're going to be able to get it. And we're going to get it because we have so much money coming in. The tariffs have made this country so rich, and they've made this country so competitive. In order to not pay tariffs, people are coming out and they're leaving Mexico, and they're leaving. In fact, it was just announced that Toyota is leaving Mexico. Toyota is going to build one of the largest plants in the world, car plants in the world, in Texas. But many, many companies, they left us and they went to Mexico, Canada, Japan, Germany. They went all over the place, South Korea. They're all pouring back. The car plants, the AI plants, are all coming back. If they don't, they have to pay taxes. The chips, we had this ridiculous CHIPS Act where you give billions of dollars to a company and they didn't even know what the hell to do with it. You give them billions of dollars, they say they're going to build. Nobody knew what to do with it. And of course, the standards were so high. If you weren't transgender, as an example, you didn't qualify. So they'd get the money, they'd look all over for transgender people to run the company, large portions. They couldn't find them. They weren't into the chip-making business, I guess, right? They had other things on their mind. But this was the Biden fools, those idiots that almost destroyed our country. But we're also reasserting the fundamental truth: to be a strong nation, you must be a manufacturing nation, manufacturing jobs. When you see these plants start to open, so we're building now at a record that we've never even, I don't think any country's ever approached this record. Again, we have $19.2 trillion being invested, and there's never been anything like it. You go back years and years, and it's China had the record with $3 trillion, and we're at $19.2 trillion. There's never been anything like it. These are going to be starting to open in 6 or 7 months. I mean, it's unfair because, you know, whoever the next president is going to be sitting up here someday and say, what a great job I did. What a great job. I did the greatest job, Jamie. He's going to be talking about what a brilliant president he is. And I'll be home and I'll be saying that, son of a gun. Because we did the job. We did the job. And we're clearing every obstacle to building the defense industrial base. And so many people, I was shaking hands backstage, they just came up and they said, we couldn't even function 2 years ago in this country. We couldn't get anything built. We couldn't get approvals. We couldn't do anything. And now we cannot imagine the change. They said 5 or 6 of the people building defense-oriented things, they said, we have no idea how this has happened to this extent. He said, we look forward to going to work. We get our approvals fast. We came up with a concept like on AI and other things that are big. Rather than going to our old, very old and fragile grid, we maintain it, but it's old and not up to date. It was let go by a lot of people that were in my position. They shouldn't have done that. But I came up with the idea to let them build their own power plants. So they're building their own power plants. So, you know, people would complain about the grid, but actually they're giving their excess electricity back into the grid. It's a phenomenal thing. But they're coming up with power. They're doing their own. They're really becoming a utility. They're becoming, actually, in addition to AI, they're also becoming utility. And they're building some of the greatest power plants anyone has ever seen. We don't want wind because it's terrible. Doesn't work. These countries that go to wind, you go to wind, you lose your way, you go out of business. Look at what's happening in the United Kingdom. Wind all over the place. Doesn't work. Too expensive. Everything's made in China. And remember, you have to replace them after 8 or 9 years. You know, it's wonderful if they were there, but you got to replace them all the time because they wear out. The salt water kills them. It's ridiculous. And we have the oil and gas. We have a number of people back there with the nuclear. Nuclear is hot. It's become safe. And we got to keep it safe, but it's become safe. But we have tremendous new things happening. And some of these power plants that are being used for AI and other things that they're building are so far advanced from what you're used to. When you look at Con Edison, you look at the old companies, it's fine. They get the job done. But these are tremendous advancements that nobody would have ever come up with except for this group of seriously brilliant people. After decades of foreign countries ransacking Pennsylvania and all of our country, they ransacked our country and stealing our jobs, I imposed historic tariffs to protect the American copper, aluminum, steel, and many, many other projects like cars. And because of that, they're all coming back. This could have been done by a president if he knew you wouldn't have a Taiwan making 100% of the chips. I think by the time I leave, we'll have almost 50% of the chips being made in the United States, worldwide. They're moving here like you wouldn't believe it. With no investment. I'm not giving people billions of dollars. I'm not saying to some chip company, here's $30 billion, good luck in finding a site. That's what this stupid CHIPS Act was. Hundreds of billions of dollars just wasted. Half of the people never even used the money. I didn't give them 10 cents. I said, you're going to pay nothing for a year. After that, you're going to pay 10%. After that, you're going to pay 25%. Gives you 2.5 years to build your factory. If you don't build it by that time, you pay 200%, meaning you're sending chips in. You have a 200% tariff. They're building like crazy. And the biggest chip company in the world is building, and they just announced that they're expanding by another $200 billion. They're spending most of their money in Arizona, a great place to invest. But they're spending an extra $200 billion. It's the biggest chip company in the world. But we passed the largest tax cuts in American history. We delivered 100% expensing. That's a big one. That's, I think, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country in my first term. We then got hit with COVID, but even including COVID, we did a great job in COVID. We never got credit for it, but every country was ripped apart by that disaster. We know where it came from. It came from Wuhan, and I said that, but we were all ripped apart. And China got hit very, very hard. It was delayed. They got hit very hard at the end. But it was a terrible thing, but we had the greatest economy in history. And before COVID, nobody had ever seen anything like it. But if you just took those 3 years and look at what we're doing now, we're going to blow them away. I mean, unless some horrible event happens, which is always possible. You know, we always have to at least think about the horrible events. Who would have thought that COVID could have happened? A thing like that could have happened. But we delivered 100% expensing, and that expensing, I think, where you write it off in 1 year. I have friends that bought things that, frankly, they didn't need. I have a friend that never flew in a private plane in his life, and he ended up going out buying a very expensive private plane because of expensing 1 year. And a lot of you're building your plants, more importantly than an example like that. You're building your plant and equipment. Jamie can expand his bank, write off everything in the first year. And you're doing a nice job. Your building is beautiful, by the way. It's great. You can write that sucker off in 1 year. Can you believe it? Now that stands up there, that steel. I want to know that steel contractor. He did a good job. A great job, actually. But we delivered 100%, and I felt it was very important to do so. And it goes for a 10-year period. So it doesn't just, I actually want to make it for 1 year because I figured everybody's going to come. 10 years is too long, but we had a couple of senators that really wanted, including a man named Lindsey Graham, who we love. And Lindsey, we pay you respect because he was some special guy. Lindsey, David, was a big proponent of 10 years instead of 1. In other words, you could use this for 10 years instead of 1. I said, but Lindsey, 10 years is too long. It gives them too much time. He said, oh, no, we have to do this. I said, no, go ahead, Lindsey. What the hell do you know about business, Lindsey, right? But he was great. We're going to miss him, right, David? We're going to miss that guy. What a way he was, yeah. You know, he's a guy, I'm just thinking, he's a guy that some people you don't appreciate until they're not here, right? And you just saw all the quality that he had. He got things done. He could even deal with Democrats. If I needed a Democrat, I could go to Lindsey, and Lindsey would take him out and wine him and dine him and say, I got him for you, right? There aren't too many people could do that. David and I know it very well. But the expensing was so important. I think it's really what led to the tremendous success because we had it in the first year and in the first administration. And I think that was what led to the single most important thing, I think, in terms of investment was the 1 year expensing. I think people were building, sometimes maybe they shouldn't have been, but they were building at levels, and then it caught up. We passed the largest regulation cuts in American history by far, and we unleashed American energy, including Pennsylvania oil, gas, and clean, beautiful coal. We're back in the coal business. We have so much technology and changes have been made in coal. And in the Trump administration, you're not allowed to use the word coal without preceding it by the words clean, beautiful. And Chris Wright, who you know so well, and Doug Burgum, they've been a fantastic team. And they were making a speech. And I said, nobody can say coal without preceding it with clean, beautiful. But this whole speech was on coal. And they kept saying, clean, beautiful coal, clean, beautiful coal. And I said, okay, it's enough. You know, but it is. And look, I hate to say it, but it's what China uses. They're building now 58 massive coal plants. And, they're responsible for building the windmills. And I said, how many windmills are they building in terms of using on their land, John? I want to know. If you see any, let us know. They got coal plants all over the place, but they build the windmills. But the only one they have that I know of is one that they want to use. They use it. They don't use it in terms of energy. They show people, look how beautiful this is, as those poor suckers buy those windmills and lose their ass. But it's a terrible form of energy, most expensive form of energy. It's intermittent, doesn't work, and in my opinion, it kills the environment. It kills the birds, but it's visually, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing. And I'm proud to say that we have approved almost none, I think none, but we are, everybody's under an order. No windmill, we don't want the windmills. We don't want them. And let somebody else use them. But everybody using them is in very big trouble. They're in energy trouble because they don't work, and very expensive, most expensive form of energy, and they don't work. And I've been saying it for 4 or 5 years, and people still buy them. Maybe not quite like they used to, but people still buy them. It's crazy. But we unleashed American energy, including the Pennsylvania oil, and the Pennsylvania oil is doing unbelievably well. We saved the great American company, U.S. Steel, and I worked with Selena Zito. I don't know if Selena's here. Selena here? She's so... Where's Selena? Where is Selena? I love Selena. Where is she? She's queen of the Rust Belt. But you're no longer the Rust Belt. You're really the Money Belt. I have a new name. Selena, are you here? Come on up here, Selena, will you? She's the queen. She is the queen of the Rust Belt. Now she's the queen of the... And be careful. Don't fall down the stairs like Biden. Come on, Selena, get down here. Grab her, everybody. I want to show you a woman that knows what she's doing. You know? She knows what she's doing. I had no idea she'd be here, but anything having to do with Pennsylvania, any of these great states, she's around. Well, Selena, I want to thank you. You're really talented. That's only because she writes so well about me. You know, if she wrote badly, I'd say, get her the hell out of here. Selena, thank you, honey, very much. We appreciate it. Really amazing person. Thank you. No, she loved this area. She loved the people, and she saw it going to hell. And she knew more about it than anybody else. And she also knew it had more potential because of the people. And she would write about it like nobody would believe. And she's one of the top writers in the country. And I hate to say that she writes for the Washington Post. But she's one of her many outlets. I hate to mention that, but she's done a phenomenal job of explaining what's going on. And she really just believed in the area, but she believed in the people of the area. They're incredible. You're going to find all of you geniuses that are building your plants. You got the best people in the world working here. So just to finish up, we did more in terms of regulation cuts by 5 times, 6 times, and even in some cases, depending on the way you look at it, 7 times than any other president. We delivered no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security. And we're building a beautiful military complex and a ballroom combination at the White House, and they were working on Saturday and Sunday, partially Sunday. And I went and visited a couple of hundred men that were working round the clock. It was Saturday night, late, very late, 11 o'clock in the evening. And I said, you're so lucky I'm president because there's no tax on overtime. Think of it. They're making a lot of money, and there's no tax on overtime. But there's no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. And that's been good. And the other thing we did, which seems simple but never done before, when you buy an automobile, some people have to pay and they have to go and borrow money from a bank. You're allowed to deduct the interest payment from your income taxes, and that's a big deal, but only if the car is made in America. So that's been great. So all of these things have added up to a level that we're booming. The country is booming, and we'll have Iran defeated soon. They'll be defeated very soon. And then I guess it'll be even better. But, you know, even during this, it's been amazing. I mean, to think, so I call it a military operation, but I call it whatever you want. It's incredible. It's like it hasn't made a dent. A lot of people thought oil would go up to $350 a barrel, and it's Today it's at $79. A couple of days ago, it was at 68. It went up a little bit because I had to take tough action because they did not obey what they're supposed to obey. I mean, they just didn't do it. So we took a little action, but it'll all, when that settles down, I think you're going to have $55 oil, which is all great for what you're doing, maybe less than that. But this year alone, we've added 18,000 new manufacturing jobs, and that number could go up by 10 and 15 times as these factories begin to open, including, remember Obama used to say, you'll never have another manufacturing job in the United States. Can you imagine? And these are the best jobs. These are the highest paying jobs. They're the best jobs. He used to say it all the time. People would say, oh, that's so bad you talk about him that way, but he did a bad job. And he was very bad on Iran because he basically gave them the money. He made what a horrible deal. He went away from Israel and he went to Iran. And that's part of the reason that we're stuck with this whole situation. But including more than 3,000 new manufacturing jobs right here in the Commonwealth, and the number will go up many times that over the next couple of years. And less than 2 years ago, we were a dead country. I say it all the time. King of Saudi Arabia told me, I was with him 2 years ago, he said, you know, it's amazing. Just a little while ago, you were a dead country, and now you're the hottest country anywhere in the world. Every leader, I just got back from NATO, every leader said the same thing. You're the hottest country anywhere in the world. And they treated me like that. They're not treating me. They're treating me because of the country. We're the hottest country anywhere in the world. And a year ago, 2 years ago, we were a dead country. It was an embarrassment. So now, with all of that being said, just yesterday it was announced that inflation saw the largest monthly decline in 6 years. Can you imagine that? 6 years. So we inherited the highest inflation in the history of our country. And it was really amazing. You know, we inherited it. And then I had my first news conference the day after I took office. And they said, affordability. Affordability, they go. That's a fake word that they use. They caused the affordability problem. It's called high prices. They came up with this word. They're good at coming up with words, but we came up with a good word too. They're Democrats, dumb. You take the B out. Most people don't know that dumb has a B, okay? But the U replaces the E, and you have a Democrat. And I just don't understand because their policy is so dumb what they've done to this country and what they will do to the country. If we don't win the midterms or win the election, everything that I'm talking about, you can just write it off because it'll revert back to open borders. It'll revert back to ridiculous high interest rates. And again, we should have the lowest interest rate of any country anywhere in the world because we make them all sing. But since I took office, defense investments in Pennsylvania are up by nearly 25% compared to crooked Joe Biden. And today we're adding $10 billion, and I think the number is going to end up being about $19 or $20 billion. And we'll be building 2 massive national security multi-mission vessels at the beautiful and historic Philadelphia shipyard. I met all the guys doing this, worth up to $1.5 billion, and it's a purchase of lots of vessels. We're going to have a lot of vessels being made there. We're also thinking about doing some purchases outside of companies that come here and build. They have to reteach us. You know, we used to make a ship a day, and now we're a laggard in that department. We do lots of great things, but we're a laggard there. And a lot of our shipyards were sold for real estate projects on the water. I bought one, actually. It was quite nicely located, but I didn't know I'd be president. If I knew I'd be president, I wouldn't have done it. I'd say I'd rather have a shipyard, right? But it worked out okay. You know, they had the best locations. A lot of those locations were sold. And we have to build our Navy, Pete, right? We got to get it going. So we're going to probably look at some of these companies that are coming in from South Korea and other places, and they're working with us on ships. And we're going to also buy some ships that are made outside of the area. And we're going to have we need a lot of ships for our Navy, a lot of ships, despite the fact we have the greatest Navy in the world, but our ships are getting older. And we really got out of that business. We built an aircraft carrier for $19 billion, which is crazy. The price is crazy. It started off I came in, one of the first things I went to see was the Ford aircraft carrier. It was way over budget. And it had things on it that you didn't need, like it had magnet magnets to lift up the elevators with 10 and 12 planes on them. Think of it. It had all sorts of modern day things that were all, instead of using steam for the catapults, they used electric. Let's have an electric catapult. And so when I went to the ship, because I came into office and the ship was way over budget, built in Newport News, unfortunately, was way over budget. It was going to cost $3 billion. It was up to like 18, 19. It was terrible. And I said, I want to meet the catapulter. And a man came over along with 4 of his assistants. And I said, what's better, electric catapult or steam? He's been there for 25 years. He said, steam is better, sir. We can fix it with a hammer and a blowtorch. When the electric goes bad, I have to send to MIT to get geniuses over here. I said, steam is better. Yes, sir, it's better. So why did they do electric? Because you can have the catapult go like this, but you can't put planes on it, sir. It takes you 39 seconds. By the time the 39 seconds is up, you have a full head of steam. And I love breathing that steam, sir. That's the cleanest air you've ever seen. But I said, so you're saying we spent billions of dollars extra to build electric catapults instead of using... And I said, what else do you hear? He said, the elevators are no good, sir. They're lifted up by magnets. So here's my deal. I said, when Caterpillar tractor, and I watch more tractors than any human being on earth, rip rock, right through rock. It's all hydraulic. So I said, when Caterpillar goes into the business of using magnets to lift up their little blades, when they go in and when they go away from hydraulic, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do something. I'm going to start using magnets, but we don't want to use them. So we're not letting any, Pete, we're not letting any more ships be built with the ridiculous, billions of dollars more they spent on electric catapults, and they're not good. They're not nearly as good, too complex. And by the way, we had to call the ship in twice because their catapults didn't work, and I predicted that was true. And the same thing with the magnetic elevators. We want them to be made hydraulic, which it can be hit by lightning, it can be hit by anything. When a little water touches the magnets, it doesn't work anymore. And you're in the Atlantic Ocean with waves that are 60 feet high, and the Pacific Ocean with waves that are 70 feet high, and they're talking about magnets. It makes you want to get sick. I actually called in the architect of the ship, and I said, have you designed a ship before? Well, I haven't spent a lot of time on that, sir. No. Even the cab, you know, the tower, they have it in the back instead of in the middle. It's supposed to be in the middle where you have more room. I said, why'd you move there? Well, we thought it was very good. Why did you do it? And why is the ammunition under where the admiral is, the tower? They have the tower, and they have the ammunition under the tower. I say, if I'm the enemy, I know where I'm aiming. These people, and the thing costs like $20 billion. It's ridiculous. All right, so we're changing all of that, right, Peter? You'll be fired so fast if you don't. No, but a lot of this is common sense stuff, really. I mean, I hope I'm not boring anybody, but it's all common sense. This isn't exactly part of my speech, but I got to tell you. You know, I'm getting it all out now, all the anger I have when I hear about electric catapults that don't work. Crazy. It's crazy, but okay. I hate to mention this name now because they're a little slower than we want, but that's okay. General Dynamics will invest $2.5 billion in Rhodes Industries to build Navy submarines. They make the greatest submarine in the world. We're 10 years advanced over probably Russia is number 2. We have to make them faster. That's the only thing. We need submarines, but they make a great product. In all the cases, we make. If you look at the Patriot missile, if you look at the Tomahawk, which is the offensive, if you look at all of the things that are better, we have to make them faster. That's the only thing. And Dan, you got to get them going a little bit, right? We have to make them faster. And Peter and I have meetings with them every month, and they're all building new plant and equipment. Boeing is building it. I see, Kelly, a lot of them, 4 of them, and it's very important. So this massive new investment by General Dynamics is going to create right here 1,500 new jobs. The munitions firm Day & Zimmerman in Philadelphia will provide $2.3 billion worth of operations, maintenance, and support to the Hawthorne Army Depot. And EOS in Pittsburgh have just agreed to a multi-million-dollar partnership with the Department of War to build, don't we love that name better? We won World War I. We won World War II. Then we decided to go politically correct. Let's go with defense. No, it's war. And I said to Pete, I said, Pete, don't you like that better? He said, used to be Department of War. And then we got politically correct. And we go in and knock out the Middle East and go home. Everybody said, why did we do that? What did we get? But we did. We had greatness, and that's what we have again. Now we have greatness again. As an example, Venezuela. Where'd you have here? When was the last time you heard that you had a war and you paid for it 50 times over? We have wars and we lose money. We have wars, we blow up something and we leave, and everybody said, what was the purpose of that? Nobody can answer the question. We don't do that anymore. But EOS in Pittsburgh just agreed to a multi-million-dollar partnership with the Department of War to build energy storage technology in support of our Golden Dome missile defense shield. We're building a Golden Dome over our country, and it's going to be a very effective one. We had 111 missiles shot a few weeks ago by our lovely friends from Iran. They were aimed at the Abraham Lincoln, which is a beautiful aircraft carrier, by the way. The SS Abraham Lincoln, 111 in a short period of time. Out of the 111 missiles shot, 111 missiles were knocked into the sea easily. Think of that. And I called the captain of the ship. He wasn't even sweating. All you got, Jamie Dimon would be sweating that. You wouldn't like that. We have a different kind of strength, Jamie, right? We don't have that. But think of it. 111 missiles are coming at you. And he's drinking his coffee, taking it easy. And one after another, we have the greatest people, most importantly, but we have the greatest equipment anywhere in the world. There's nothing like it. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I would imagine you couldn't even think about a thing like that happening. The JWF Industries is expanding its Windber facility and anticipating over $500 million in new contracts to build new vehicles, weapons, and components, and they make great stuff. Voyager Technologies will be investing hundreds of millions of dollars in turning Pittsburgh into an international robotics and space technology hub. And the robotics is so important because, again, we have the most people working right now in the United States than ever before. We need manpower and woman power. The AI software company Air will be spending $450 million to expand their Pittsburgh office, and Carnegie Robotics in Pittsburgh will have the chance to produce hundreds of millions of dollars worth of autonomous technology for the United States Army and its vehicles. The Firepoint Energy in Tunnelton will be investing at least $170 million in pilot program to convert coal waste into jet fuel, electrical power, and critical minerals. And I hope you're going to do magnets. Somebody out there, I hope you're all brilliant people. Magnets. Do magnets, okay? I'll tell you how to make money. Do magnets. You're doing a lot of great stuff. Do magnets. Because one thing we don't have, but we're getting close, but do magnets. So I hope John Gray is listening to me so he can give him a couple of bucks and go into the magnet business. I guarantee it's going to be a success. It's one thing we don't, for some reason, it's not complex, not hard. We have the material. For some reason, they just don't, they don't do it. We need magnets. So one of you companies out there, go out, I'll teach you how to make money. Just do it. Companies like Adelon, Kratos, Advanced Cooling Technologies, Sphere Brake Defense, JP Morgan Chase, and Q Intel, among many others, will be expanding their investments all across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In addition, the defense subsidiary of the legendary Pennsylvania company, Mack Trucks. Oh, I met him the other day. Where's Mr. Mack Truck? Where the hell are you? He was great, making a beautiful, thank you very much, making a beautiful truck. He's trying to sell 15,000 of them to us, 15. I said, how many are you looking to sell? Sir, 15,000. I thought he said 15 because it's a big, beautiful truck. I made a speech 2-3 weeks ago, and they had a sample of the truck right behind where I spoke. It made me look very small, sort of like Dukakis, remember, in the tank? I said, get that truck the hell out of here. I immediately thought of Dukakis with the helmet and the massive helmet, the massive tank, and you didn't even see him. That was not good. He went down 20 points after that. So I said, get the hell, they get that truck out. But the truck was amazing, actually. But I said, how many? He said 15,000. I thought he said 15. So I said, he's going to sell 15. That's a lot of trucks. He said, no, actually 15,000, sir. So, but it's a beautiful truck, and I think he's got a good shot at doing it. And he'll be building $222 million worth of powerful new vehicles for our military already in a different truck. And Mack Truck is doing really well, and they've been great. And because we're here in Pennsylvania, where State Trooper Michael Farrow was killed just 2 weeks ago by an illegal alien operating a semi-truck on a commercial driver's license, which he should never have had. He was here illegally, came in through Biden. Today, I'm making one more important announcement. My administration will soon take historic action to get illegal alien truck drivers who are just killing a lot of people. They can't read signs. Many of them are on drugs or alcohol, and they shouldn't be driving these things. And they came in totally illegally, and we don't want them, but they are driving all over American roadways, and we're going to replace them with proud American veterans. We're going to take our veterans, we're going to teach them a lot about driving trucks, and in many cases they know. We're going to say any American who's driven a heavy truck for our military will automatically be eligible for a commercial driver's license. So we're going to get them taken care of. And the radical left is very much opposed to that, but it doesn't matter what they want because we're the ones that are running it. And just to finish, I want to thank our great Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. He's fantastic, that man. And the House Budget Chairman, Jody Arrington, for launching an effort to get the Save America Act passed, including it's so basic, voter photo ID identification, proof of citizenship, and hopefully no corrupt mail-in ballots. We'll have exceptions for the military. We'll have exceptions for disability, for people that are not feeling well, or for people that are on vacation or anything. We're going to make it very easy. But the mail-in ballots, you see what happens in California. The vote still isn't counted. Can you believe it? It's like, 6 weeks? The vote still isn't counted. But the kid really, he was Spencer Pratt. I don't know Spencer Pratt. He came to the White House and saw me. But Spencer Pratt was an automatic lock, and he didn't make it. There was a little thing, Dina. They said, well, Spencer's falling behind a woman that nobody ever heard of. He's falling behind. No, it's very corrupt. And they were going to do that to Steve Hilton, too. And I had the U.S. attorney, did a great job. He started an investigation. They said, Steve Hilton is starting to fall badly behind. And I said, that doesn't mean falling behind. That means cheating is going on. This is 2 weeks after the election. So I got the U.S. attorney involved. And like 20 minutes after they made that statement, they said, Steve Hilton just made the runoff. These are crooked people. These are crooked people. The whole thing is terrible. But along with our incredible farmers and funding for our troops, so we're getting a tremendous amount of funding for our farmers, and we take care of our troops. We got them a great pay raise. But I support those efforts, and we're cheering them on. And the actions that we've announced today will create thousands of new Pennsylvania jobs, and they'll make our entire nation stronger and more prosperous than ever before. We have the strongest nation that we've ever had. We have the most successful nation that we've ever had. We've never had a thing happen. So many people, the biggest people came, financial people said, well, sir, I've been in business for 35 years. One gentleman, he looked like a young man, but he said 35 years, so he blew it. But he said, I've been in business for 35 years. I've never seen anything like what's happening right now. I'll bet Jamie would say that. I'll bet John would say that. There's never been a period of time like this. So I want to thank, again, Senator McCormick, once again, for this incredible get-together, but really, much more importantly, for the outstanding work that he's doing as a senator. He's an incredible person. And Pennsylvania has never had a greater warrior at the U.S. Senate than Dave McCormick. And it's an honor to be with you all. And we're going to do things that nobody would believe. If you go back 2 years when we were a failing nation, nobody would believe that we could be doing business and we could be even safety. The lowest murder number since 1900. Think of that. The lowest number since 1900, 125 years ago. Nobody would believe we have the lowest crime numbers, despite the fact that millions and millions of people came into our country illegally, and many of them were, they're gone now, but many of them were from prisons, they were drug addicts, they were from mental institutions. We have the lowest crime numbers we've had in decades and the lowest murder number in 125 years. So it's really been amazing. And David, I'll give it to you. I'll turn it out, but it's just an honor. I'm with so many people that I respect so much. I don't know all of you. I know many of you through reputation, through reading, but you're an amazing group of people, and you really are making our country great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are so honored to have you here. I know you've got a special love for Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania has a special love for you. And this is all about your vision of peace through strength. And what's happening here at this summit is really all the people we need in the room, the prime contractors, the energy leaders, the emergent technologies, the leaders in labor, the leaders in finance, all the team that needs to be in place to implement your vision. So if it's all right with you, what I'd like to do is turn to the Secretary of War, let him make some remarks, and then draw in some of the business leaders we have here. And I'll say the one little story is when I was on the campaign trail with the president, one time I walked off the stage and he said, "You know what I like about you?" He said, "You don't talk too much." He said, you don't go on and on. There was somebody else there, I won't say who it was, he goes, going on and on. He goes, "Keep it short." And so we'll all keep it short. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator, that was a good warning and a good reminder, for sure. Mr. President, it is true to say that there has never been a moment like this or a stage like this where innovators, prime contractors, private equity, titans of industry, labor leaders, defense leaders have come together for this type of moment. There's never been a moment like this where the aperture has opened up inside the Department of Defense for defense and the second word, innovation. Your demand of me as a business leader and a builder is that we move at the speed of business and competition and speed and scale. And that's what these folks have funded and founded in their companies. But our bureaucracy was built to keep most of you out. And we've been waging a war of attrition against the Pentagon bureaucracy to open up the aperture and make sure competition and speed and innovation and commercial options have a seat at the table. Not just great prime contractors who've been there for a long time, but many of our great companies that make many of our best systems started to look a lot more like the government than they looked like business. And so what the president does behind the Resolute desk with prime contractors, and you've been at those meetings, and I've been at those meetings, and it's a reminder to all of us that our nation needs the best weapons, not tomorrow, but today. And we need these companies not just adding an extra shift to the factory, but investing in another plant and another plant and another manufacturing line, which is what's happening here in Pennsylvania and all around the country. So when you talk about the arsenal of freedom, this is only something that a builder-in-chief could unleash, and you're doing it, sir, on American manufacturing and our industrial base across the country in energy. But in defense specifically, this is a generational investment in the future of our warfighting capabilities that our country has not seen since Ronald Reagan, and this one is bigger. Because what Joe Biden and previous administrations did to our military, you talk about a dead country. Well, we had a dead department, a Department of Defense, that was doing things the old way, sending the same money in the wrong direction, red tape, and monopolizing certain platforms. And you said we won't do it anymore, and the American warfighter requires that we change how we do these things. And we're going to hold the big guys accountable, which is what you do behind the Resolute desk with executive orders and no stock buybacks and no more delays. And we demand that you build new plants. And then we're also going to make sure the new runners, the fast runners, the young guys, the companies, the tech companies, our best innovators have the ability to get into the Defense Department. You shouldn't have to sue your way in to the Department of War, which is what companies in the past have had to do in order to compete. I hope these companies can attest the fact that because of President Trump's leadership, we have an entirely different department. And it's important because we're at an entirely different moment. Not only do we have near-peer adversaries with historic military buildups, but we're at a step-change moment. AI and frontier models, autonomy, quantum, space, hypersonics, you name it. If you're ahead now and you get ahead of the game, you're going to be way ahead. If you fall behind now, you fall even further behind. The have-nots and the haves, that gap is widening. President Trump sees the moment and is investing in it in our department, but across government, to make sure the 21st century is an American century. But he's demanding that we do it differently. We do it in a fiscally responsible way. We audit our department. We ensure that the money that we ask for is well spent. So we've got a different department, a different moment, and thank God we have a different president who rebuilt the military once. He's doing it again and is willing to make a historic investment, $1.5 trillion investment in the War Department to ensure that we outcompete, without question, every other nation on planet Earth, so that things like Venezuela can continue to be done to reestablish deterrence around the world. But that next midnight hammer that's required 10, 20 years down the road is because of the F-47 and the B-21 and the autonomy and the carriers that this president will build because of this historic investment. The Golden Dome that protects our country, the AI that allows us to target faster. This investment will fundamentally change the battlefield, keep the American people safe now and into the future, and it would not happen with Donald Trump. Mr. President, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thanks.
And you were just watching President Trump making remarks at the Pennsylvania Defense and Innovation Summit, and President Trump saying that he's going to make an investment, praise Pennsylvania's role in American manufacturing and defense, and the major announcement was an investment package for the state's defense industry. So I'll give some highlights on that. President Trump announced nearly $10 billion in new investment in Pennsylvania's defense industrial base, and saying the projects will create more than 4,000 jobs. So, and as well as he's saying that Pennsylvania will play a central role in producing ships, submarines, trucks, weapons, and other military equipment. And this is all an effort to further strengthen United States national security. And then War Secretary Pete Hegseth also made remarks at the same summit, and he was saying that the United States is entering a new era of defense innovation, and of course, crediting that with President Trump and what he has done with transforming how the department works. He's saying this is an unprecedented gathering of defense contractors, technology companies, investors, labor leaders, and everyone else to strengthen America's defense industry. Okay, let's move on from that. And the U.S. is launching another round of strikes against Iran. Central Command saying the strikes are targeting Iranian military capabilities used to strengthen vessels, to threaten vessels transiting through the Strait of Hormuz. The offensive comes after the U.S. reimposed a naval blockade in retaliation for Tehran's attacks on ships trying to pass through the waterway. The U.S. initially imposed a blockade in April. The military lifted it last month after signing an interim deal that paused the fighting, setting a 60-day period for negotiations over Iran's nuclear program. Those talks have stalled as fighting over the strait intensifies. And the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party is examining how American taxpayer-funded research is helping China's military. Lawmakers say weak safeguards have allowed sensitive U.S. research to flow into institutions tied to Beijing. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley joins us now. Jack, what came out of the hearing?
Well, Don, lawmakers pressed federal agencies on the security gaps that let taxpayer dollars flow into research directly tied to China's military. So there were top officials from the Department of Energy, the National Institutes of Health, and the National Science Foundation. They all sat before the committee, and the NSF itself says that beginning next year, it will ban foreign funding to companies on the U.S. restricted entity list. They just made that announcement last week. But until then, these agencies continue working with the groups accused of espionage and human rights abuses. Take a look at some of the highlights from the hearing.
These are already on entity lists that the federal government has designated to be dangerous for the United States. Why wouldn't you have a policy on that?
We are currently reviewing the NSF policy, right? It was just announced last week. The department has a long-standing layered approach to ensure that we have a managed research environment to mitigate risks posed by these types of collaborations, types of interactions.
And this is something that we're definitely discussing, particularly after seeing NSF's policy come out. We agree that it is a concerning risk factor.
Under the policy, institutions will be responsible for ensuring funds are not used to support prohibited collaborations and for maintaining appropriate oversight to identify and address potential noncompliance before NSF funds are expended.
Now, the Select Committee has been investigating these U.S. government agencies to find where the Chinese government is benefiting off of U.S. taxpayer dollars. The Pentagon has already taken action on this and blacklisted several Chinese-linked firms like Alibaba, BYD, and the committee chair, Congressman John Molinar, says that any China-based entity poses a threat due to China's 2017 national security law. That law requires citizens to hand over sensitive information on demand to Chinese Communist Party authorities. Now, lawmakers are expected to consider additional legislation to tighten all of those safeguards in the coming months. Don, back to you.
All right, Jack, thank you very much. China is building a full-scale replica of a U.S. warship in the middle of a vast remote desert. The Taiwanese analyst who first spotted the calls, what he calls Beijing's first ever 3D mock-up of a U.S. destroyer, says it could be linked to China's attempts to refine hypersonic missile targeting. He says it could also be a signal that China wants to remain combat ready and simmering tensions over Taiwan. Here are the details.
At first, it looks like any American warship at sea. Then you notice the sand. More than 1,000 miles from the nearest coastline, hundreds of miles from any major city, deep inside the western Chinese desert, what appears to be a full-scale mock-up of a U.S. Navy Arleigh Burke-class destroyer. Look at it side by side with the USS Fitzgerald. The resemblance is striking. Both are around 510 feet long. At the back, the helicopter flight deck, used to launch and recover naval helicopters. Next are the vertical launch systems, cells used to fire guided munitions like the Tomahawk cruise missile, heavily used in the conflict with Iran. This is the bridge and command area, where navigation, communications, and combat operations are controlled. At the front is the deck gun, used for surface targets, air threats, and shore bombardment. Together, the details suggest a carefully built, full-scale replica of one of America's main guided missile destroyers, workhorses of the U.S. Navy fleet, more than 70 sailing in oceans around the world. If conflict ever erupts over Taiwan, these destroyers would likely be among the first U.S. warships deployed. Han Su analyzes China's military for Taiwan's top defense research institute.
Why would China go through all the effort and expense to build this?
The Chinese try to prepare everything from A to Z.
The Chinese military has ballistic missiles that can attack from high angles and cruise missiles that can attack horizontally. So they're trying to combine both and enhance their anti-access and area denial capability.
He says they're trying to improve the accuracy of China's newest hypersonic anti-ship missiles displayed at Beijing's military parade last year. The 3D replica is covered with antennas designed to simulate the radar signature of an American warship, helping China detect, identify, and perhaps target the real thing. It's located in Xinjiang, the same area where the People's Liberation Army built 2D flat mock-ups of U.S. aircraft carriers and destroyers several years ago, even putting them on tracks, analysts say, to move at the speed of actual ships.
Have they ever built a 3D mock-up before? It's first time.
Open source intelligence analyst Joseph Wen first spotted the mock-up when it was still under construction about a month ago.
I do think this is quite surprising. The scale of the construction is really massive.
What message are they trying to send by building this?
The message that they are sending is China is always preparing for war.
Under leader Xi Jinping, China has poured billions into modernizing its military, from aircraft carriers and nuclear weapons to artificial intelligence. The PLA has also long trained using mock-ups of everything from U.S. military assets to Taiwan's presidential office. On China's tightly controlled social media, censors are allowing comments like these. The U.S. military's premier escort warships, long regarded as a source of pride, have now become designated targets for Chinese missiles. They are nothing more than targets sitting in the desert, waiting to be hit.
Ukraine says it expects to make U.S.-designed Patriot missiles by the end of the year. A number of European leaders are in Kyiv today celebrating the anniversary of Ukraine's liberation from communist rule under the Soviet Union. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pastar has the latest.
Ukraine on Wednesday, celebrating 35 years since the end of communist rule. Ukraine's Statehood Day was first introduced after the Russian invasion and also commemorates the process of Ukraine becoming a Christian nation over 1,000 years ago.
Thank you very much.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is joining the leaders of former communist nations who are in Kiev to celebrate Ukraine's Statehood Day.
The European Union stands with the brave people of Ukraine. In the recent weeks and months, Russia has intensified its air attacks on this beautiful capital here in Ukraine.
Because of the increase in Russian missile attacks, the US recently allowed Ukraine to produce American-designed Patriot air defense systems.
For the first time, Ukraine is moving closer to the possibility of producing missiles for Patriot systems. I thank the President of the United States for this political decision.
Experts previously said it might take Ukraine 18 months to produce its own missiles. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky now gives a different timeline.
We expect by the end of 2026 we will have the technical capability to produce Patriot missiles by the Ukrainian team. American missiles produced by our own forces.
Meanwhile, Ukraine reports more civilian casualties on Wednesday. First responders are on the scene in the Odessa and the Sumy region. Officials say Russian assaults killed 6 civilians overnight. According to Ukraine, Moscow used missiles, drones and guided aerial bombs in the attacks. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
And if you're shopping for a new laptop or tablet, you may be paying more than expected. Why the AI boom is driving up the cost of everyday tech. More news after this break. Stay tuned.
Appliances break down, home systems fail, which means I show up at everyone's door because I'm inevitable.
Unfortunately, something expensive is about to happen.
Is it the heat, plumbing, electrical, wiring, garage door, oven?
But we already have homeowners insurance. Actually, home insurance is for the unexpected disasters. A home warranty is for the everyday wear and tear that will cause your home systems and appliances to fail. So give the people at First American a call.
First American has had my back for years. It saved me hundreds. Just one call, and they send a pre-screened, qualified contractor.
Every home system and appliance fails. There's absolutely no avoiding it. But when the day comes, First American has you covered. Home breakdowns are inevitable, but the expense, that's optional.
Call First American for a free quote that could save you thousands on inevitable home breakdowns. Call 800-423-1231 or visit FAHW.com.
I trod on my glasses yesterday and I had to pay up front for a new pair that I can't even pick up for another 10 days. So I looked for another way and I found Select Specs. I ordered online. My new glasses just arrived this morning and I can pay over the next few weeks. This is the way to buy glasses.
See now, pay later with Select Specs. Next day delivery and deferred payment options only at selectspecs.com.
Introducing the Quest Wise Soothing Herbal Eye Patches. It comes with 30 pairs and can be used to help combat tired and strained eyes. The natural herbal formula provides a cooling, minty, and refreshing effect that stimulates natural tears and awakens your tired eyes. Placing the eye patches around your eyes helps to reduce dryness and massages acupuncture points. They can be worn while reading, studying, using electronics, and provide hours of long-lasting relief.
Imagine
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
Following a string of major criminal fraud cases in federal programs, Senate lawmakers hear from investigative journalists and watchdogs on how to stop billions in taxpayer fraud before it happens. NTD correspondent Jason Blair has the key takeaways.
When a fraudster commits fraud, he or she steals from all of us.
The Senate Homeland Security Committee is looking to tackle widespread fraud being exposed across the country. Chairman Rand Paul compares the federal government to private businesses that verify payments up front.
Washington pays first and asks questions later, if it asks them at all. No private business would survive this way. A bank confirms an account exists before wiring the money. A credit card company flags suspicious changes in seconds.
Paul highlighted major criminal cases in Minnesota.
Prosecutors have now charged 15 people in Minnesota with schemes involving more than $90 million. One autism services scheme alone, $46.6 million. The Justice Department calls it the largest Medicaid autism fraud case in its history.
Independent journalist Nick Shirley, whose investigations helped expose those Minnesota cases, tells the committee the problem is nationwide.
Now the highest government-funded daycare in Minnesota has pleaded guilty to daycare fraud, and the largest autism bust in American history has been exposed. If we as Americans do not stand up to protect our country, we will lose our country.
Journalist James O'Keefe describes undercover work that contributed to a federal prosecution.
We recorded a woman named Brown handing over cash as payment in exchange for a homeless person to register to vote in a federal election. Now that is a federal crime.
Ranking member Gary Peters describes bipartisan legislation he helped pass to stop conflicts of interest with pharmaceutical companies.
After learning that a company was being paid with tax dollars to advise the government on oversight of the pharmaceutical industry, while simultaneously being paid by pharma companies to help market their drugs.
Shirley urged lawmakers to take stronger action, while Senator Joni Ernst highlighted a new package of anti-fraud bills she hopes can move to the Senate floor soon. Reporting on Capitol Hill, Jason Blair, NTD News.
The Senate committee reviewed President Trump's nominee, Dr. Erica Schwartz, for the role of director for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Restoring trust to the CDC is my number one priority, and I look at it in three ways. The first thing that we must do, is to go where the science leads us, no matter what. Scientific integrity is core.
Schwartz currently works for United Health Group. She was Deputy Surgeon General during Trump's first term and has also been the Coast Guard's Chief Medical Officer. Schwartz said that public health is in her DNA. The CDC has been in turmoil recently due to layoffs and resignations during the Trump administration. Additionally, previous picks to lead the agency have failed to stick. House Republicans are moving forward with a reconciliation bill. Speaker Mike Johnson saying the legislation will largely focus on the Save America Act.
To secure America's elections, we're going to pass the Save America Act into law, as much of that as possible. The Save America Act ensures, as you know, that voters have proof of citizenship to register to vote, and they show a valid ID when they turn up to vote at the ballot box. These common sense policies are supported by 83% of the American people. It's almost a 9 out of 10 public opinion poll in most of the polls.
The budget resolution calls for allocating $95 billion for efforts to implement voter ID, defense, and farm aid. $73 billion would go toward defense and intelligence amid the Iran war. $10 billion would go toward election integrity efforts, and $12 billion allocated to farm aid. Both the House and Senate must pass identical resolutions to unlock the reconciliation process. Reconciliation allows bills related to taxing, spending, and the national debt to pass with a simple majority. 51 votes are also needed to pass a budget resolution. And are you looking to buy a new laptop this summer? The price tag may shock you, and you can blame AI for it. Here's why.
Back-to-school shoppers take note. The price tag of a new tablet or laptop may come as a surprise.
The reason for that is the memory chip shortage, which we also think about as the RAM shortage. And that has everything to do with the memory chips that are stored in your phones or your devices.
And AI is to blame. The proliferation of AI data centers has led to a surge in demand for memory chips used to quickly process information, and chip makers can't keep up.
Largely speaking, AI evolution has taken those chips, and now we are having to pay for the cost of it when we think about buying new devices.
Tech giants like Apple, Microsoft, and Nintendo have recently hiked prices on a range of devices, with gaming consoles, tablets, and laptops most affected. Smartwatches and wireless earbuds less impacted because they don't need as much storage. Daisha Milden, Senior Consumer Insights Editor for CNET, says consumers looking to save on refurbished tech may not get too much relief right now.
Refurbished tech can also increase in price, even though it is a used or maybe secondhand device, because of the demand. So you're not going to pay, of course, full price. You'll pay a fraction, but you shouldn't expect the same prices that you saw last year.
As to when the chip crunch might end, analysts say because it takes time to build new plants, supply may be squeezed until at least 2028. And even then, prices may not return to pre-shortage levels.
But just a quick note here, Nintendo hasn't actually hiked the prices on their consoles just yet. They have, however, announced that they're going to hike the prices in September 1st to be exact. But right now, they're still the old prices. All right, heavy rains continue to drench South Texas, while the Midwest and Northeast is under threat from dangerous smoke as wildfires in Canada and Minnesota rage on.
Heavy rain in much of southern Texas prompted warnings to evacuate flooded areas. Downpours from slow-moving storms caused washed-out roads and farmland and led to dozens of high-water rescues across the region. The National Weather Service said a tornado touched down in the northwestern part of San Antonio. The deluge is forecast to continue through Thursday evening. There are no reports of deaths or injuries from the tornado or the flooding. Heavy smoke from several large wildfires blazing in Canada and Minnesota could expose millions of people in the Midwest and Northeast U.S. to dangerous air pollution. Winds are carrying the smoke southeast from more than 100 wildfires currently burning in Canada. Minnesota and New York received warnings on Wednesday about the smoke. High temperatures and severe drought has provided the perfect conditions for wildfires. About 4 dozen large fires are currently burning across 15 states, from Minnesota and North Carolina to Colorado, Utah, Idaho, Oregon, and California.
It's a bit ironic if you think about it. These tech companies are making more advanced AI, but they're raising the cost for everyday consumer products that actually have the AI on them. So it's like we have more advanced AI, but we can't afford the products that use them. It's a little bit ironic. But thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. We're taking a quick break now. We'll be back with more news. And stay with us for NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.